Chapter 51, Surprising, isn't it? How is it possible, with just a few strands of silk? Candace couldn't finish speaking as she found it to be too incredulous. In this chilly weather, the silk threads were as straight as steel wires. This beautifully had mastered the control of silk to such an extent that it had reached a level of perfection. Snover, use razor leaf once again to destroy the silk, she urgently commanded. The fallen Snover immediately tried to adjust its body, preparing to unleash razor leaf. However, before it could react, it felt a tingling sensation running through its body, and its stamina began to decrease. Beautifully, absorb. In full view of everyone, Snover energy kept flowing towards beautifully through the silk threads. Snover. Candace was greatly alarmed and quickly called out several times. Oh. Snover furrowed its brow and responded weakly. It seems, the power of absorb move is still too weak. It's time for beautifully to learn Mega Drain and Giga Drain. Terence observed the situation in the arena. Despite having its energy absorbed, Snover remained conscious. If it wasn't due to the opponent's strong willpower, then it must be because Beautifly's absorb wasn't lethal enough for Snover. Don't give him a chance to react, Beautifully. Finish it with Air Cutter. The raging winds around them became the perfect aid for Beautifully to unleash Air Cutter. The icy gusts, carrying a cutting edge, sliced towards Snover, causing it to panic and attempt to break free from the silk threads. However, it was unfortunate that Snover couldn't escape its fate of being hit on the vital spots by Air Cutter due to the tough silk. Its eyes turned into spirals, and it collapsed to the ground. Snover is unable to battle, so the winner is, the middle-aged man from the school raised a small red flag and helplessly looked at the outcome of the battle. As he was about to announce the winner, he suddenly froze, unable to continue speaking. Oh, right. I'm Terence from Fallarbor Town in the Hone region. Terence recalled beautifully into the Pokeball, paying no attention to the battle's result. For him, the most important thing was Candace, right? I won. What he actually mean was, you should tell me how to easily get to Crown Academy. At this moment, Candace was still immersed in the battle and hadn't recovered from it. Watching the fainted Snover, she couldn't believe that she had lost so easily. Moreover, she lost to a kid who was about the same age as her. Oh, wow, amazing. Oh, so strong. He defeated Candace-senpai. The children around them had been staring wide-eyed since the battle started, holding their breaths as they watched this incredibly brilliant battle. Only at the end did their gaping mouths gradually close, admiration evident on their faces. Especially among these children, there was a little girl with deep red-orange hair color. Throughout the battle, her eyes were sparkling with bright little stars, never leaving from Beautifully. Candace, you know, Terence and his Pokémon share a bond that surpasses yours. Did you notice? When Terence gave a command, Beautifully executed its move almost instantaneously. It shows that there is a strong connection between them. The middle-aged man approached Candace and spoke. You and Snover are lacking that kind of bond. Teacher, Candace looked up and glanced at Snover, who had recovered, and said, I understand. Snover and I will become the best of friends. Well then, Terence, I won't lose to you in our next battle. Sure. Terence smiled and then coughed. I understand, I understand. You want to go to Crown Academy, right? Then let my dad give you a ride. Sighing, Candace didn't understand how this oddball before her could defeat her so easily. Is it really your first battle? Also, I didn't expect you, Terence, to be a student at Crown Academy. The tuition there must be very expensive, right? Talking about tuition, it should be expensive. Terence nodded. You said your dad can give me a ride? Is that okay? Candace patted her chest. Of course, there's no problem. Besides, he's going back to the academy anyway. Oh, I forgot to tell you, he's actually a teacher at the academy. Surprising, isn't it? Terence. So, you want to know why I'm not a student at Crown Academy? Candace raised her finger and gestured back and forth. First, the tuition is very expensive. Second, I dislike the mountains. Third, I am determined to become trainer of Snowpoint Gym, so I don't have time to go to school there. Fourth, I have friends at this school. Although I'm not sure what you're thinking, as long as you can get me to the academy, that's all that matters. Terence waved his hand dismissively. He had no interest in hearing other people's stories. He felt his fingers were almost numb from the cold. Candace's dad wasn't just a teacher at Crown Academy, he was also the current gym leader of Snowpoint Gym. Even the Pokémon Trainers School in Snowpoint City was partially funded by Candace's dad. So Candace has been attending school in Snowpoint City since she was young. Because she had made friends here and wanted to inherit Snowpoint Gym as soon as possible, she declined the opportunity to go to Crown Academy for training. I agree with that. You can become an excellent trainer even without studying at the academy. Terence agreed. At least, until he met Master Victor, he had never heard of academies. Candace listened with a puzzled expression. Giving up the chance to enroll in Crown Academy was something her dad criticized her for many times. However, Candace had made up her mind to improve her skills as soon as possible and seize the position of gym leader. What nonsense! Trainers like you who can't even distinguish basic knowledge would have died outside if it weren't for the League's exploration of the wilderness. In the past, except for a few brave fools, how many trainers dared to travel alone? The glory of Crown Academy 100 years ago was something that you youngsters can't even imagine. You show no respect for the efforts of the past. Kid, are you really planning to study at Crown Academy? I remember all 5 new students enrolled this year. At this moment, both Candace and Terence, who were having a conversation in a room, were startled by the sudden arrival of someone behind them. It was a bespectacled middle-aged man who looked knowledgeable but seemed to have a bad temper, giving off a cold aura. Dad, seeing this man, Candace's face became bitter. I'm Isaac, Candace's father. You're the trainer who defeated her, right? A glint flashed in his glasses as the man, with an unfriendly gaze, stared at Terence. Chapter 52, Repaying a Favor. Mr. Isaac, hello, I am Terence, Terence said. As for the matter of enrolling in Crown Academy, I have a recommender, so I should be considered a transfer student. Terence thought for a moment and said. Transfer student? Isaac looked at the young man with suspicion. It was rare for Crown Academy to have transfer students. Each student's spot was highly valuable. Besides families willing to pay, only individuals who had made significant contributions to the academy such as professors, researchers, teachers, or members of the administration had the qualification. It was generally impossible for an ordinary person to transfer after the enrollment date at a place like Crown Academy. Well, I'll believe you then. Isaac said casually, turning his head. Candace, do you now realize your shortcomings? Right now, you are still too young to inherit Snowpoint Gym. What? Next time I will definitely win, and sooner or later, I will defeat you and become the gym trainer. Candace glared back, refusing to back down. Terence watched the father and daughter with disinterest and started observing outside the window. Several little boys and girls were playing together with Pokémon in the courtyard, having a great time. Mr. Isaac, why do you want to invest in a Pokémon trainer's school? Terence looked at the children outside, feeling emotional. When he was in Fallarbor Town, the children there didn't have such treatment. They didn't just get to spend time with various Pokémon but also had the chance to acquire fundamental trainer knowledge. This kind of educational exposure was truly vital for young kids. Interrupting the squabble between the father and daughter, Terence's question caught their attention. Of course, it is to have everyone understand Pokémon better and become friends with them, Candace casually replied. Mr. Isaac looked at Terence with a hint of surprise. The intention behind this question. For a moment, he didn't know what answer Terence was seeking from him. When he met Brock in Lilycove City, he realized that the current timeline was much earlier than the beginning of the plot. The modernization was not evident in most places yet. Although the requirements to become a trainer had been lowered, it hadn't reached every household yet or gained everyone's attention. In other words, most trainers at this time weren't valuable. Except for a few elites, most of them were just following their dreams. In such a situation, Mr. Isaac's willingness to personally fund a place for the children of Snowpoint City to learn about trainers and Pokémon reflects an exceptionally noble mindset. Candace is right. I just hope that humans and Pokémon can coexist peacefully through this bond of trainers, Isaac observed Terence's expression, but he couldn't discern anything. I see, Terence nodded. Terence, right? I still have one more day off. How about we leave early tomorrow morning? Isaac suggested. Terence. Fortunately, Terence was persuaded to stay and didn't have to search for accommodation on his own. As dinner time arrived, Terence shamelessly adhered to his if you can freeload, then freeload principle and spent the night peacefully. The next morning, Mr. Isaac drove his personal car and set off with Terence. Dad, be careful on the way, and Terence, don't slack off on training. Let's have an all-out battle next time. Candace waved at them. The car started with a buzzing sound, emitting a puff of smoke as it quickly sped away from the city. There was a small road created by humans from Sootopolis City to Crown Academy that could barely let a car pass. Perhaps due to the noise it made, they rarely encountered wild Pokémon along the way, making the journey smooth. After about an hour, Mr. Isaac parked the car by the roadside. Let's get off. From here on, we have to walk. There's no road that can be traversed by vehicles in this direction. Terence was quite surprised. He thought he could just relax and reach the destination without any effort, but in the end, they still had to walk. Is it okay to leave the car here? What if a mischievous Pokémon causes trouble? It's fine. Take a look over there, Mr. Isaac pointed into the distance. Terence followed his gaze and saw a Pokémon standing on the side of the mountain, covered in white fur, with a horn-like thing resembling a sickle on its head. It was looking down at them from high above. Disaster Pokémon, Absol, Terence exclaimed in astonishment. Not bad, you actually know about Absol and didn't even use the Pokédex. No wonder you were able to defeat Candace. That makes you much stronger than a rookie trainer, Mr. Isaac said. That child lives nearby. If there's an avalanche on a snowy day, it will be the first to notify people passing by. With its help watching over the car, there's no problem. Mr. Isaac gestured towards Absol and led Terence to continue towards Mt. Coronet. Without a flat road, walking became even more difficult. That Absol, is it Mr. Isaac's Pokémon? On the way, Terence remembered the Absol from earlier. It seemed to have an extraordinary bond with Mr. Isaac. Hehe, not exactly, Mr. Isaac shook his head. When I was young, that Absol saved me. It was also then that I aspired to become a trainer. Terence remained silent, clearly waiting for him to finish. But at that time, Sootopolis City was still very poor, and due to its proximity to Mt. Coronet, the weather was harsh. Very few wealthy people were willing to come here to develop this place. So how did you become a teacher at Crown Academy? Terence suddenly had a question. Become a teacher? No, I should say I became a student. I've also graduated from Crown Academy. At that time, in order to become a trainer, I had no way out due to my family's circumstances. When I heard about the existence of such an educational institution on Mt. Coronet, I thought of going there to study. I had to put in a lot of effort to enter Crown Academy at that time. If it wasn't for my kind-hearted teacher who saw me, a child, making the journey all the way there, I probably wouldn't have had the qualification to enter Crown Academy. Saying that, he sighed, after graduating from Crown Academy, I became an excellent trainer, as others would say, and it changed my life. But people like me are too few. Most people end up fading away in reality. So, is that the real purpose behind your investment in the Pokémon Trainers School? Terence's eyes flashed with surprise as he looked at him. Well, you could say that. After graduating from the academy, I applied for gym qualification from the Pokémon League and established Snowpoint Gym. Sootopolis City gradually developed as a result. Moreover, in recent years, the number of trainers has increased significantly, and even in this remote city, there's a growing presence of people. Moreover, Sootopolis City is close to Mt. Coronet, and trainers also like to come here to capture powerful Pokémon. Leading Terence, a transfer student from Crown Academy, Isaac couldn't fathom the emotions he must be feeling knowing that he would soon enter the academy. But in order to become a student of Crown Academy, he pushed himself to the limits and, with a stroke of luck, managed to change his own fate. Crown Academy held an indelible emotional significance for Mr. Isaac. So even after applying to become a gym leader after graduating, he still returned to the academy to become a teacher, continuing to educate the next generation of trainers. Also, due to the remote and cold nature of Sootopolis City, it allowed Mr. Isaac to handle both the roles of a teacher and a gym leader. Chapter 53, Gloomy. After venturing into Mt. Coronet, Terence and Mr. Isaac walked for some time, crossing through ravines before a massive stone stele appeared in front of them, with the words Crown Academy inscribed upon it. Here we are, Mr. Isaac said, leading Terence forward. Before long, several boys and girls approached them with gloomy expressions on their bitter faces. These individuals wore athletic attire and had pokeballs fastened to their waists. They appeared to be trainers. Upon seeing Mr. Isaac approaching, they glanced at him before greeting, "Teacher Isaac, you've returned." The despondent tone of these people made Terence look at them oddly. Since they referred to him as Teacher Isaac, they must be students of Crown Academy. Their lackluster demeanor made Terence wonder if he had come to the wrong place. He felt a twinge of regret. Aren't trainers supposed to be a group of vibrant and passionate individuals? Noticing Terence's peculiar expression, Mr. Isaac cleared his throat forcefully. He had just boasted about Crown Academy to Terence, however, the group of students approaching them appeared groggy, walking with chancy-like steps, which was quite embarrassing. Teacher Isaac, during your holiday, something significant happened within the academy. Please refrain from getting too worked up when you go back. We have missions to attend to, so we'll leave first. The gloomy-faced youths paid no attention to Terence, sighing as they walked away. Something significant, Terence felt a headache coming on. It seemed this place wasn't as peaceful as he had thought. Taking a deep breath, Mr. Isaac furrowed his brow and said, "Let's go." Terence, remember, once you become a student of Crown Academy, you must have your own pride and determination. You cannot let setbacks bring you down like those people earlier. Many outstanding trainers have emerged from Crown Academy, and their success is directly linked to their hard work. Crown Academy was built within a massive enclosure surrounded by mountains. Due to its location on the outskirts of Mt. Coronet, there were no fixed roads on any side, making it challenging for travelers to find the academy without guidance. If not for someone leading the way, locating the academy within the vast expanse of Mt. Coronet would be extremely difficult. Within the academy, there was a class for the newly enrolled students, known as the beginner class. There were also the intermediate class and advanced class, which required passing tests in order to progress, as well as the graduation class where the most exceptional students were placed. The students in the graduation class had an average age of 14 or 15, and they dedicate themselves to rigorous training in preparation for the final graduation exam. In Crown Academy, the graduation rate was remarkably low, with the majority of students simply completing their studies without graduating. Moreover, the current student population in Crown Academy only numbered around 100. This year, 5 new students were admitted, which was considered a decent number. As Mr. Isaac entered the academy, the environment inside the walls contrasted sharply with Mt. Coronet. There were lush trees and flowing streams, but the traces of human intervention were evident throughout. The credit for this transformation belonged mostly to Pokémon and technology. Terence took a deep breath. He could accept this environment. It was much more comfortable than Sootopolis City. Since you have a recommender, I will directly arrange your class for you. Before arranging Terence's transfer to a class, his eligibility for enrollment needed to be verified. Although it was highly unlikely for anyone to falsify such matters, the basic procedures still had to be followed. After all, Mr. Isaac doesn't have the qualification to grant Terence direct admission. The path Terence was currently walking on was paved with blue stones, giving it a somewhat quaint feel. However, what slightly concerned Terence was that, apart from the group of students who had just left, he had hardly seen anyone else along the way. The walls of Crown Academy were enormous, encompassing a larger area than Fallarbor Town. Terence's mouth twitched. Could it be that such a vast place only housed around 100 students and teachers? It's rather tragic to be on the verge of decline. Over a month had passed since the start of the school year, and now Terence had to deal with not only the enrollment procedures but also the complicated process of joining a class in the middle of the course. Wide-eyed, he looked at the stout and chubby middle-aged man in front of him, who nodded kindly. "You must be Terence." This chubby man was the administrator in charge of enrollment. After Mr. Isaac brought Terence here, the man didn't show much surprise. "I have already been informed about your situation by the dean. Leave the transfer to me." Mr. Isaac, who was standing on the side, was speechless as he looked at Terence. Connections with the dean? Which corporation's scion was this young man? Terence received 2 specially tailored free sportswear sets, a student ID, and a dorm room's key. These were the basic items for a new student. "Terence, there are a total of 4 beginner classes. Each class has around 4 to 5 students and a teacher. Here is the detailed information about the 4 classes. Take a look and see if there's one suitable for you." The chubby man handed Terence a booklet containing some basic information about the 4 classes. Among these 4 classes, 2 were aimed at raising battle-oriented trainers, 1 focused on training coordinators for Pokémon Contests, and the last one was a special class. Pointing his finger at it, Terence's lips twitched as he asked, "What's the deal with this class that only has 2 people?" After receiving an explanation from the chubby man, Terence fell silent. It seemed that the concept of having an elite class existed everywhere, which is a rather discriminatory practice. Are you interested in this class? If you want to join this class, it might be troublesome, the chubby man's brows furrowed. The teacher of this class is extremely picky. If you don't meet his standards, there's basically no hope. Moreover, due to the previous incident, the teacher even had a quarrel with the dean. He probably wouldn't even give the dean face. The chubby man didn't say this out loud. Besides, the chubby man's face drooped. When he received the news from the principal about admitting a transfer student, he had initially intended to assign Terence to the best teacher. However, after notifying that strange teacher, he was berated and sent back. Trainers like Terence, who relied on connections and lacked strength, were not well liked by that particular teacher. It's all right, Terence smiled. It was just beginner class, and his interests didn't lie here. I remember, we have a class in our academy dedicated to teaching breeder knowledge, right? Breeders. The chubby man was taken aback, not expecting Terence to be interested in breeders. Indeed, there is such a class, and it has a relatively larger number of students, about 8. However, our academy only has this one place for raising breeders, and this class isn't divided into ranks. To graduate, you must obtain the Junior Breeder's certification. Breeder knowledge includes theory and practical aspects. Few children are willing to study it. Compared to battling and training with Pokémon, burying one's head in books and memorization can be quite dull. Therefore, there is only one class for breeders in the entire academy. I see. That's great, then. Terence smiled. He had already known about this class at Crown Academy. Although the graduation requirements might not be easier compared to the trainer classes, for him, as long as he was willing, he could apply for graduation at any time. The average age of the students in the graduation class was 14, and the average age of the Joy family members who passed the junior breeder examination was also around 14. The two numbers coincided, but Terence was a freak. You should think carefully. It can be quite troublesome to transfer classes later, the chubby man said earnestly. In the past, some people had chosen the breeder class, thinking there were no promotion exams, only to be overwhelmed by the heavy workload. I think I'll be fine, Terence replied with a warm smile. Chapter 54, There's Someone Outside. Breeder class can be said to be the most special class in Crown Academy because breeders are required to memorize and familiarize themselves with a lot of the knowledge, so most people are allowed to do self-study. Only during practical courses and complex theoretical discussions, the teachers would gather everyone for unified explanations. For the most part, the students arrange their own time, and if they have any doubts, they can consult the teachers individually. This is exactly what Terence wants: no strict timings, a comfortable environment that allows him to fully bond with his Pokémon. Are you interested in being a breeder? If you want to enter the breeder class, you must have strong self-discipline. Only through continuous accumulation can you become an outstanding breeder. Passing the junior breeder assessment is not something you can achieve by simply studying casually. Mr. Isaac sighed, it's a pity that you have talent in battles. How could someone who can defeat Candace develop an interest in being a breeder? Terence rolled his eyes. Don't worry about it. I'm already an excellent breeder. Finding his own dorm room and dealing with the teachers and class are Terence's matters. Mr. Isaac doesn't need to take care of everything for Terence. After Terence left, the chubby man and Isaac exchanged glances. Isaac didn't forget about the gloomy students he had just encountered. It's not a trivial matter to make trainers as outstanding as them feel gloomy. Did you bring that little guy here? After Terence left, the chubby man's demeanor transformed from amiability to seriousness. It seems like Dean values him a lot. Is there something special about him? Oh? There's information that even the famous Gotu doesn't know. Isaac adjusted his glasses and smiled at the chubby man named Gotu. If Terence was here, he would be very surprised because since the moment he met Mr. Isaac, he had never seen a smile on the face of this bespectacled man. I don't know. I never expected a transfer student to come. Letting out a yawn, Gotu continued, Old friend, I guess you still weren't able to persuade your daughter to come here, hey? What happened? What's going on at the academy? Isaac also became serious as he looked at Gotu. For Gotu, who knew everything like the back of his hand, to say such words, it seemed that something significant had indeed occurred at the academy. This is. Looking at his dorm room in surprise, Terence almost wanted to devote his heart to the academy. It was so luxurious. Especially the notebook-style computer on the table, it had a fatal attraction to Terence. So this is what Master Victor meant by the Academy's foundation. The ancient academy, which has been passed down for 100 years, must have accumulated an enormous wealth of resources. In the old greenhouse, a television was considered a treasure in the eyes of the children. They didn't even dare to think about something like a computer. Just the thought that each student would have such a setup made Terence feel emotional. With this notebook, he would find it much easier to calculate formulas and data in the future. And it's a single room, just as I like it. The room wasn't big, but it was enough for one person. In this building, the residents were all students and teachers of the breeder class, as well as some professors from the research department. It can be said that the students living in this building were very fortunate. The teachers capable of teaching in the breeder class were generally at the intermediate breeder level, with a few seasoned researchers who have earned their senior breeder credentials. Living near this group of experts, having the opportunity to ask them questions and learn from their wealth of knowledge, would undoubtedly make studying a breeze. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys moonlight first. Just now, that chubby man said it's a rare theory class for the breeder class today, so there are basically no people in the building. Should I visit the seniors living in this building first? Or should I go to the breeder class and report my arrival? After careful consideration, Terence thought it would be better to get familiar with the breeder class first, at least he should check in with his class teacher. It wasn't just the breeder class, there was a solemn atmosphere hanging over the battle class, coordinator class, whether it was the beginner, advanced, or even the graduation class. Looking from the outside, the breeder class was being taught by a middle-aged man, around 30 years old. He wore checkered pants and a white shirt, his expression unnatural as he looked down at the 8 students below, his anger evident. Do you think this incident has nothing to do with our breeder class? Based on your analysis just now, it seems like you don't care or think that it concerns breeders. But let me make it clear to you that the other person involved is also a breeder, and not just any breeder, but an intermediate breeder, just like me. This incident is not a coincidence, it's inevitable. You have been spoiled for far too long, thinking that graduating at 14 as a junior breeder is something remarkable. This is a sign of lack of ambition. If it continues like this, our academy will be on the brink of ruin. I passed the junior breeder assessment at the age of 16, which is not worth boasting about and may even be inferior to some of you. But times are changing, and you have better conditions. If you think you can leave Crown Academy with this level, you can, but the future will definitely belong to those who work harder. As the breeder class teacher continued his admonishment, the 8 students of varying ages from 10 to 14 remained silent, not daring to utter a word. There were even 1 or 2 girls who didn't dare raise their heads to meet the teacher's gaze. After that incident, the higher UPS and teachers of Crown Academy went through a period of reflection, which was followed by a deep sense of powerlessness. If things continued this way, the Academy might truly become a thing of the past, and Crown Academy, one of the few remaining orthodox institutions of learning in the world, would be on the verge of extinction. Perhaps in 5 or 6 years, the Academy would indeed face the possibility of disappearing. With the increasing popularity and upgrades of mechanisms in gyms and league conferences, there has been a growing number of trainers going on journeys. Even though their skill levels vary, the vast number of trainers allows the few talented ones to stand out, rapidly grow, and accumulate various experiences during their journeys. In comparison, the Academy's slow-paced theoretical teaching seems impractical. However, the Academy was also undergoing its own changes and introducing many measures that were beneficial to the students. But over the years, the level of trainers graduating from the Academy had been less than satisfactory. Even the cream of the crop from the graduation class, after 4 or 5 years, only numbered in the single digits. Their achievements in the league conference were only at the level of the top 3, far from meeting the expectations of a perfect championship. In this competition designed to select talented people, the younger the winner, and the better their performance, the more attractive they were to the Pokémon League. Champions after the age of 15 are indeed impressive, but in this kind of annual and frequently held competition with varying levels of competition, their achievements don't seem as extraordinary. The atmosphere in the breeder class was very quiet, but it was ultimately broken by Terence, who was eavesdropping by the window. With the student's remark of "there's someone outside," everyone immediately noticed him. Clearing his throat in embarrassment, Terence pushed open the door and walked in, politely greeting everyone. "Hello, everyone." Chapter 55, the most talented trainer. Excuse me, student, is there something you need? Forrest, standing on the podium, frowned and asked. In Crown Academy, it was impossible for any teacher to remember all the hundreds of students. Terence took a look at them. The teacher still looked angry, while the students below were all well behaved, and everything looked harmonious. My name is Terence, and I am the new student of this class. I should say I'm a transfer student who just arrived today. A transfer student? I haven't received any news. Forrest looked puzzled, observing the boy who seemed to be around 10 years old. All 5 new students for this year have already been assigned their classes, and it has been a month since the start of the school year, so Terence's sudden appearance was too abrupt. I see. Well, that could be troublesome. Terence himself was surprised. The teacher named Forrest seemed to still be angry. After saying class dismissed to the students below, he quickly left after a brief exchange with Terence. I'll go and find out the situation. Terence, right? Please wait here for a moment. Crown Academy, what exactly happened here? Terence's eyes widened. This place was nothing like what Master Victor had described. The moment Teacher Forrest left, the 8 students of the breeder class started talking animatedly. Hey, are you really a transfer student? I'm Chiba, and my dream is to create universal Pokémon food, shouted a boy with porcupine-like hair. Newcomer, you didn't choose this class just because there are no exams for promotion to the next class, did you? Said another older boy with red hair. Well, Terence looked around the classroom. There were a few empty seats due to the low number of students. I'm neither a transfer student nor a new student. Didn't you all listen properly? My name is Terence, and I've come from Fallarbor Town in the Hone region. Minding his own business, Terence walked to the nearest empty seat and sat down. Was that person our class teacher just now? Can you tell me what's going on? I've felt that the atmosphere in the academy has not been quite right ever since I arrived. What exactly happened here? Terence looked interestedly at the group of boys and girls with a curious expression in his eyes. Everyone, whether trainers, breeders, teachers, or students, seemed troubled by the same thing. So arrogant, in the corner, a girl with short orange hair supported her cheek using her hand, looking bored as she glanced over at Terence. In the classroom, excluding Terence, among the 8 students, there were 4 boys and 4 girls, making the ratio fairly balanced. However, this was thanks to the nature of the breeder class. If it was another class, the distribution might not be so even. Hello, classmate Terence. I'm Leaf. Can I just call you Terence? A girl with brown hair tied in a single ponytail sat beside Terence. She looked friendly, but her voice was slightly nervous when she spoke to him. Sure, Terence smiled. Then, Leaf, can you tell me what happened? Ha ha ha, let me tell you. I think we, the breeder class, are quite innocent, said Chiba, the porcupine-haired boy, who left his seat and arrived in front of Terence. Speaking of innocence, a boy with black short hair and somewhat pale skin chuckled helplessly. He looked weak and, while the others were focused on Terence, he took out a sketchbook and began doodling. Regarding the battles, it's clearly the trainer's responsibility. We, the breeder class, aren't good at battles. Why should we be punished too? Chiba pulled his hair in frustration, his face showing a mix of distress. Even Leaf next to him nodded in agreement. So, what exactly happened? Terence likes children with quieter personalities. A girl with long, golden hair. She challenged the trainers of the academy. Reaching this point, Chiba became quite excited. Honestly, I've never seen such a beautiful girl. And most importantly, her Pokémon are incredibly powerful. She defeated 11 trainers of the graduation class in a row without taking much of a break. Not only that, she even defeated a teacher who challenged her. 11 from the graduation class, plus 1 teacher. Terence almost choked. Is Crown Academy really that bad? And even the teacher? Wait, how old is that girl? 14 years old, the redhead from afar spoke. Not only that, she's also an intermediate breeder. Terence calmed down, remembering the group of trainers he encountered initially, feeling dejected. If a 14-year-old girl could overturn the entire academy, defeating even the teachers, it was undoubtedly a blow to a prestigious institution with a long 100 years of history. The trainers she challenged were students of the graduation and advanced class, and not a single one was her match. Even the teacher who stepped up to challenge her in the end was defeated, Leaf said. She's the most composed, decisive and daring trainer I've ever seen, a dark-skinned boy added. During the battles, her victories were almost overwhelming. A 14-year-old intermediate breeder, challenging Crown Academy. Are there really such terrifying individuals? Terence was taken aback. According to Master Victor, the outstanding trainers who graduate from the academy could easily achieve top 3 rankings in the league conference. Even individuals of such caliber were defeated in succession by a girl of the same age, or even younger, and she even defeated 11 people in a row, including a teacher from a top-tier comprehensive institution. This strength, she is even stronger than Wallace. Terence frowned. Who's Wallace? Chiba heard Terence's muttering and asked in confusion. It's nothing, Terence said. Do you know any other information about that girl? Of course, she's now a celebrity in Crown Academy. Almost every teacher and student knows her, Chiba said. They say she's from Celestic Town and is the granddaughter of the Celestic Town Historical Research Center's curator, Professor Carolina. Rumor has it that she came to challenge Crown Academy after the academy received a formal challenge from Professor Carolina herself. Her name, let me think, it's Cynthia. Cynthia. It's her, Terence exclaimed. Ah? Wait, do you know her, Terence? Chiba was surprised to see Terence's reaction and quickly asked. Kind of, but not very well. Terence mumbled to himself. If it really was that Cynthia, then almost no one in Sinnoh could match her talent. Cynthia, the future Sinnoh champion, was one of the 2 champions from the original work that Terence remembered. The other was Lance, the Johto region champion and Kanto region Elite 4, also known as Ash's so-called undefeated Dragon Master. The latter had left a deep impression on Terence back then, being the only female champion he had seen in action. Cynthia. Whether it was her outstanding looks, calm demeanor, or focused attitude during battles, it left a lasting impression on Terence. Cynthia. I seem to have missed quite the spectacle, Terence lamented, regretting that he couldn't witness the prowess of this fighting goddess. Taking a deep breath, Terence calmed down and looked at the 8 classmates again. He subconsciously spoke, if it's the Cynthia I know, then Crown Academy's defeat is not unjust. Maybe in a few years, her name will resound throughout Sinnoh. The 8 aspiring breeders stared at Terence in a daze. They had expected to hear some unyielding words from him, but never did they think that this transfer student would actually start to hype up someone else's reputation. Chuckle, the girl with short orange hair, who rarely spoke, burst into laughter. Your words are quite similar to that defeated teacher's. Moreover, he referred to that girl as, right, the most talented trainer. Chapter 56, Credits. Terence wasn't sure if he was getting along well with this group, but after the breeder class teacher, Mr. Forrest, returned, Terence's transfer student identity was confirmed. Forrest didn't say much, merely reminding Terence of some matters related to the breeder class. Before leaving, Terence asked some questions about the schedule. The knowledge taught in the breeder class fell within the scope of a junior breeder, and Terence no longer needed to listen. So, he had his own plans. That's indeed true, but even though there's no exam for promotion to the next class in the breeder class, I occasionally take some tests. If someone performs exceptionally well, I can apply for some credits for them. So, it's better not to slack off in your studies. I understand. Terence nodded and bid farewell to Teacher Forrest, returning to his dorm room. At Crown Academy, the meal and accommodation fees were included in the tuition. Specially hired chefs prepare the students' meals, ensuring that both taste and nutrition were impeccable. However, if a student wanted to request Pokémon food from the academy and didn't prepare it themselves, they would need to use a different form of currency, known as credits. In the academy, Pokémon food is made by breeders who are experts in their field. It is a complete and high-quality nutritional product, and the number of credits required varies depending on the ingredients used. Credits could be obtained through cash exchange, but the ratio was quite ridiculous. They could also be earned through class ranking, regular tests arranged by teachers, and missions posted on the Academy network. The credit system is a new policy at Crown Academy, which plays an indispensable role in encouraging students' enthusiasm and ensuring the proper management of resources within the Academy. In addition to Pokémon food, special items such as evolutionary stones, technical machines, items that Pokémon can carry, and valuable berries can all be exchanged using credits. In the Crown Academy, there is even a policy where you can use credits to exchange for precious Pokémon eggs. After returning to his dorm room, Terence first logged into the Academy network through the computer. On the platform, various missions were posted, and in addition to that, there was a vast database of the Crown Academy containing a plethora of knowledge. It covered everything from training methods, battle tactics, breeding knowledge, dazzling techniques, to classic battle videos. Apart from fundamental knowledge accessible to all students, such as the resources in the House of Breeding library on the first floor, there were also more profound and advanced materials, which have been accumulated by the previous generations that require a certain amount of credits to access. Therefore, credits were the most important currency within Crown Academy. Interesting. Mission: accumulate badges, 50 credits for each gym badge obtained. Mission: Junior Breeder's Certificate, reward 1000 credits. Besides these, there were various different competitions including league conferences that also offered different amounts of credits based on performance. So these are the so-called missions? Seems a little random, Terence muttered. He carefully browsed through them and found that there was no information about exchanging credits for Pokémon eggs for some reason. Items like Firestones seemed quite expensive, costing 200 credits each. While browsing, suddenly, Terence noticed a special post. Unlike the previous missions, this post was not in the mission section but rather in the student exchange area. It was a request from a breeder class student seeking help in taking care of their Pokémon. They were offering 10 credits per week, and the expenses for food and care would be borne by the employer. Terence read further and found that there were quite a few such missions requested by students. Most of them had too many Pokémon on hand and didn't want their training to be neglected. Others had young Pokémon and were looking for professional help to take care of them. And with enough credits, students could also have the breeder class teachers help take care of their Pokémon. However, hardly anyone was extravagant enough to choose that option. Besides that, Crown Academy also has a corresponding raising ground to help students with an excess of Pokémon with regular care. This mission might be worth considering. Terence currently has only Beautifly and Swablu as his Pokémon, and he has the capacity to take care of a few more. Moreover, if the Pokémon he was responsible for taking care of met his requirements, he could coordinate it with Beautifly and Swablu's special training, a perfect opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. Before that, Beautifully and Swablu still have a lot of training to do. I need to focus all my attention on them until they reach a bottleneck, then I can consider other things. Terence wanted to further improve Beautifully and Swablu, which required resources. And resources meant credits. Most methods to earn credits required time and accumulation. Terence was a bit lazy, so without hesitation, he chose the mission, Junior Breeder's Certificate, to secure this significant amount of credits first. With 1000 credits, he could be extravagant for quite some time. After logging in with his student ID, Terence took on this mission and uploaded his breeder information. Then he patiently waited for the credits to be credited. On the other side, the staff member responsible for managing the mission system was dumbfoundedly looking at the message that had arrived, and his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Although he had been working here for a long time, it was the first time he has encountered such an astonishing new student. 1000 credits were a resource that students would need to spend a long time to earn. If all invested in one Pokémon, it could lead to amazing results. According to his backend notifications, this student's registration to mission acceptance time was incredibly short. Junior Breeder. Terence. 10 years old. Breeder class. Unbelievable. Does the dean already know about this? I need to talk to him. Ding. Is it here? Terence saw the addition of 1000 credits to his ID and felt a sense of satisfaction. Now he had more than enough to splurge for several months. As of now, earning credits is not the primary goal. First and foremost, I need to start preparing the secret technique of Beautifully and Swablu. The secret technique Terence had in mind for Beautifully and Swablu also required resources. With this amount of credits, he could exchange for a large number of nutritious products, precious materials, or special items to conduct special training for the two little Pokémon. If he were traveling outside, Terence would have neither the resources nor the time to consider their growth in such detail. It was only in this peaceful environment that he could dedicate himself fully to their development. Also, Terence looked toward Lilycove City. It was time to start preparing for the intermediate breeder exam. After all, whether it's people like Cynthia, who will amaze the future generations, or Wallace, the prince of the Pokémon contest in the Hone region, they would inevitably enhance their breeder level. So there is no harm in him seizing some time. A trainer who possesses a thorough understanding of their Pokémon's growth, personally prepare food according to their tastes, and holds substantial knowledge about Pokémon, is destined to be powerful. Chapter 57, enters the science. Time flies, and 2 months quietly passed. During these 2 months, new students had the opportunity to thoroughly familiarize themselves with the Academy's environment and life, making many new friends. However, for Terence, these 2 months were lonely as he immersed himself in his own world, seldom interacting with the outside. Terence didn't participate in any of the breeder class courses or exams during this period. So, Teacher Forrest even came to look for Terence after learning about it. However, when Terence brought out his junior breeder certification, Teacher Forrest's attitude toward him took a 180-degree turn. He gave full support to Terence's every move. A genius that will amaze the Academy is about to appear in the breeder class. Teacher Forrest was excited. He understood perfectly well what a 10-year-old breeder represented. For Crown Academy, this could potentially be the secret weapon to restore the reputation, which was overturned by a girl 2 months ago. Teacher Forrest and the Dean had a discussion about Terence's matter. After learning that Terence was a top-level breeder, and Master Victor arranged for him to be here for intensive training, they completely relaxed their supervision over Terence, focusing everything around him and taking care of him in various aspects. Only a few high-level personnel knew about Terence's background and information. As for the students in the breeder class, they only knew that a peculiar transfer student had joined, and after the initial introduction, he mostly kept to himself. Even if they encountered Terence, it was just a simple greeting, and he would disappear afterward. As a result, Terence earned the nickname of reclusive transfer student. It seems I'm not going in the right direction, Terence frowned, feeling dejected. In the past 2 months, both Swablu and Beautifully have made remarkable progress in various aspects, best described as rapid. Terence spared no effort in providing them with the most suitable nutritional supplements and food, along with a well-planned training regimen. He put his heart and soul into them, all with the aim of helping them grow perfectly. In fact, in just 2 short months, Terence had already spent 600 credits into the 2 Pokémon, and it can no longer be described as simply extravagant. Only students from affluent families could afford such extravagance. Terence dared not subject Beautifully and Swablu to excessive and grueling training. Despite constantly providing them with nutritional supplements, he ensured their growth followed a moderate and balanced path. He did so to avoid any detrimental effects on their future development, preventing them from facing any potential setbacks in the long run. Beautifly's mastery of manipulating air currents became a basic skill, continuously making slight progress. Absorb move, after continuous refinement and practice, successfully evolved into Mega Drain, and eventually Giga Drain, maximizing its power. That had been the primary focus of Beautifly's training during these 2 months. Moreover, after 2 months of care and meticulous nurturing, Beautifully has become even more beautiful, emitting an elegant aura. As a result, it has also grasped the highly effective move Attract. Although the learning process of the moves is very slow, it has its advantages as well. As long as it has learned the move, Beautifully have plenty of time to practice and reach maximum proficiency. As for Swablu, its growth rate was several times faster than Beautifly's, thanks to the fact that it was just born and has astonishing talent. Swablu has a habit of keeping clean and would use its cotton-like wings to tidy up whenever it saw something dirty. Terence also paid attention to its hygiene, which eventually led Swablu to learn the move Refresh. Moreover, with its outstanding dragon-type talent, Swablu has been learning and comprehending the dragon energy within its body all the way from natural gift to hidden power. And now, it has naturally grasped the move Dragon Pulse as well. Swablu's dragon-type talent is indeed remarkable. After replacing hidden power with Dragon Pulse and with the additional growth it has experienced over the past 2 months, it can now use Dragon Rush with some proficiency. As long as it is not a heavyweight Pokémon like Steelix or Golem, Dragon Rush would be a decisive move for Swablu that can determine victory or defeat. In other words, Swablu has now passed its infancy stage and could now engage in high-intensity battles. Looking at their progress, Swablu and Beautifly's gains are indeed gratifying. However, Terence's self-devised secret technique showed no progress whatsoever. Although they have a clue for combining Beautifly's Giga Drain and Morning Sun, they couldn't find a way to make it work. Beautifully could sense the sunlight, but its affinity with it was poor, making it unable to continuously accumulate solar energy. Terence had wanted Beautifully to learn Solar Beam as a first step and had even exchanged for Solar Beam's technical machine. They constantly analyzed, researched, and tried to imitate, but according to Beautifly's response, the flow of solar power within its body was too fast, making it extremely difficult to accumulate enough for a prolonged solar beam. Even after watching the detailed analysis of technical machine, the process of understanding it was incredibly challenging. Deliberately trying to learn it would probably take even more time. Terence also attempted to let beautifully plunder solar nutrients directly through Giga Drain, converting it into its own stamina, but it simply didn't work. Terence realized that his ideas were too simplistic. Morning sun and synthesis might have similar effects, but their mechanism seemed different. Under morning sun, solar energy acted more like a catalyst, affecting the speed of stamina recovery. On the other hand, synthesis was more like directly converting solar energy into another substance for stamina recovery, which is like energy conversion. And this kind of energy conversion was exclusive to grass-type Pokémon. Beautifully lacked the affinity towards sunlight, and it seemed that it didn't possess the specific substance needed for energy conversion. Therefore, Terence's idea of creating a fusion version of synthesis had to be temporarily abandoned. During his research, Terence began to question the Pokémon's moves. Even though they were different individuals, they could execute the same moves, and some could even use moves that were opposite to their own types. Recalling his knowledge from his past life, if all matter was composed of fundamental particles, could the energy contained within Pokémon also be made up of special substances found in nature? The root of this might lie in the arrangement and structure of these substances. When combined in different ways within various Pokémon, they could create a new kind of energy. It could be dragon power, psychic power, control over water, fire, or electricity, or perhaps something that acted as a catalyst for moves like synthesis. Maybe the move metronome was a technique that randomly disrupts the energy structure within the Pokémon's body, which could explain its unpredictability and lack of direction. But all of this remained conjecture, and no matter how hard Terence banged his head, he couldn't verify the truth. The failure of Beautifly's secret technique plan was now attributed to the inability to construct a specific energy conversion catalyst. This catalyst, which is the unique energy structure of grass-type Pokémon, means that Morning Sun could never become synthesis, even when combined with Absorb. Meanwhile, Swablu faced trouble as it couldn't seem to grasp the move Mirror Move, which it should have been able to learn as it grew. Following Terence's conjecture, if metronome was a technique that disrupted the Pokémon's internal energy structure, randomly enabling it to use different moves, then Mirror Move, which could mimic most moves, deserved careful study as well. Mirror Move Rules. 1. If the Mirror Move tries to copy a move that the opponent has not used yet, it will fail. 2 moves that haven't hit cannot be mimicked, while moves that hit but have no effect can be mimicked. In other words, Mirror Move is a move that operates on a mechanism akin to shape memory alloy. When the opponent's move hits the user, it triggers a profound short-term memory in the Pokémon's brain, allowing it to rapidly copy the energy structure it sensed, and thus copy the move. Upon reaching this conjecture, Terence couldn't help but chuckle, finding it a bit absurd. Yet, upon careful consideration, it seemed plausible. He didn't know if others had made similar conjectures before, but as a transmigrator, he naturally felt curious about the unknown. Swablu couldn't learn Mirror Move, most likely because it had only been a few months since its birth, and its brain hadn't fully developed to match its body. In other words, to learn Mirror Move, Swablu needs to have a high-frequency memory ability. In addition to having a wealth of experience in getting beaten up, Swablu also needs to nourish its brain by eating some brain-boosting foods. This is what Terence has deduced over the past 2 months regarding the inability of Beautifly and Swablu to master the secret manual based on his past life's knowledge and breeder theories. In these 2 months, the 2 Pokémon had reached a point where they were nutritionally saturated, and it was no longer suitable to continue nutrient supplementation at the same rate. They were now experiencing nutrient overload. Following this, Terence made the decision to maximize his use of time. Chapter 58, Accepting a Mission. Tap, tap, tap. With agile fingers, Terence swiftly tapped on the keyboard, scrolling through pages, looking for missions related to breeding. During these 2 months, both Swablu and Beautifly had been absorbing nutrients, training and practicing their moves. At the moment, both of their growth was slow due to the nutrient saturation and low utilization rate. Though they have been training diligently, compared to real combat or survival in the wild, they were living too comfortably. What they needed at this moment was intense pressure that would stretch their relaxed nerves to the breaking point, allowing them to quickly digest the stored nutrients. As Terence was preparing for the intermediate breeder exam, he didn't have much time to take the 2 little ones for real combat. So, he shifted his focus to other people's Pokémon. Ideally, he needs Pokémon that could assist beautifully and Swablu in improving specific aspects. Recently, Terence had been keeping an eye on the forums, and a few days ago, he had locked onto a breeding commission posted by a trainer from advanced class. This commission offered a substantial reward of 350 credits, indicating that the client was willing to spare no expense. However, behind the extremely high credits, the requirements for the breeder were quite strict. This breeding commission was different from simply taking care of Pokémon, and is not like the easy mission that earned 10 credits per week. The breeder needed to be fully responsible for the growth of the Pokémon and meet specific criteria. The client's request is to raise 4 Nosepass. The goal was to raise them into Probopass within 5 months who possess outstanding combat capabilities. Is this preparation for the graduation class ranking battle in 5 months? Terence pondered, understanding the trainer's intentions. 7 months later, during the degree promotion period, it was the best time to accumulate credits quickly. This guy was clearly making an early investment. Probopass is indeed a Pokémon with impressive strength, suitable for filling the team's weaknesses. The most important thing is that 4 Nosepass can greatly assist in Swablu and Beautifly's training. If he took on this mission, Terence would also be responsible for raising the strength of the 4 Pokémon, otherwise, the other party wouldn't be so generous to give away free credits. So, he decided to take on this mission. With his mind made up, Terence contacted the other person. The communication between the two went smoothly, and they quickly arranged a time to meet. When the time came, Terence prepared everything, washed his face, and headed to the pre-arranged location. The dormitory building was still deserted, both breeder class students and teachers, as well as some research professors, were holed up in their rooms, rarely going outside. In contrast, trainers' battle class had daily courses, and their combat training was fully scheduled. The academy was feeling the pressure and had high expectations for this group of trainers. As a result, the credits awarded during the degree promotion have been significantly increased, which has motivated students to work even harder to improve their strength. Downstairs. As soon as he arrived, a green figure caught Terence's eye. It was a Pokémon with a white body, looking like it was wearing overly long clothes. Moreover, its green hair was also quite long, covering most of its face. It's Ralts. Ralts is a feeling Pokémon, able to sense the emotions of both Pokémon and humans using its horns. Due to their aversion to negative emotions in their surroundings, Ralts normally tends to stay far away from humans. This particular Ralts seemed different, it stood quietly there. Opposite it, a young man wearing a white shirt with a zip-up blue long-sleeved shirt on top was sitting on the ground, engrossed in sketching something with colored pencils in a sketchbook. One person, one Pokémon, both very quiet. Terence recognized the person, he seemed to be a student from breeder class. Terence didn't know much about him, only that he was a gentle and somewhat introverted fellow who was kind and would greet everyone with a smile. As a result, Terence had a slightly deeper impression of him. Student Terence. Terence hadn't intended to disturb him, but as he passed by, the introverted guy looked up with surprise and greeted him. Azaa! Are you here to bring food for Ralts again? Terence remembered that was his name. Also, this guy had very pale skin, looking quite frail. Teacher Teresa prepared the food for Ralts. I'm just delivering it. It's made by Teacher Teresa. Terence knew the teacher. She was one of the breeders responsible for the Pokémon food in the academy and should be an intermediate breeder. Especially in terms of making Pokémon food, she had her unique views. Teacher Teresa's method of making Pokémon food was very special, with ingredients Terence had never seen before. Both Swablu and Beautifly love the food she prepares. If I could learn Teacher Teresa's techniques for making Pokémon food, I could provide them with sumptuous dishes when traveling outside in the future. Though Terence is a breeder, he wasn't particularly skilled in making Pokémon food. Only those breeders who aim to obtain higher breeder certifications would focus all their energy on researching a specific field. For example, Joy specialized in medical care, Master Victor in genetics, and possibly, Teacher Teresa was also preparing to challenge a higher certification in Pokémon food. Senior breeders didn't just possess extensive knowledge, they also excelled in specific fields. Accumulating outstanding expertise in one particular field was a crucial step to becoming a senior breeder. Is Teacher Teresa busy? I would like to ask her some questions about Nosepass's food, Terence inquired with Azaa. She might not be busy, but her mood might not be good today. Azaa said in a hushed voice. Terence sighed. All right, I have other things to attend to. I'll leave first, Azaa, and Ralts. See you next time. Oh, goodbye, student Terence, Azaa replied hastily. As for Ralts beside him, it remained quiet. Terence was used to it, this Ralts seemed not very talkative. The mission Terence took on was to raise 4 Nosepass and evolve them into Probopass within 5 months. He needed to arrange their food during this period. If they are from MT Coronet, the food for Nosepass would mainly consist of leftover metal and some special rocks. The client didn't request overly expensive food. As long as Terence could cultivate reasonably strong Probopass within 5 months, he would meet the commission's standard. Therefore, it was unnecessary to choose precious and costly food. However, determining the right food combination is a profound knowledge, and even Terence has to seek advice or conduct research to deduce the best approach. Teacher Teresa was probably the most skilled in making Pokémon food from Terence's impression. However, she seems to suffer from anxiety disorder. Although it only flares up occasionally a few times, due to this, she has limited teaching hours. Chapter 59, Magnetic Force Training. MT Coronet, inside the academy walls, a small pavilion. Terence had been waiting here early, and after about 15 minutes, a chubby guy with brown hair came running over, out of breath. It was clear that he was exhausted from running all the way here. Sorry, the chubby guy looked apologetic and took a few deep breaths before speaking slowly. Terence waved it off with a friendly smile. No worries, do you want to take a rest? Oh, thank you. AJ was pleasantly surprised. We're fellow students, so if you feel bad about it, you can compensate me with some extra credits. The two fell silent for a while before finally discussing the matter of taking care of the Pokémon. These are the 4 Nosepass I recently caught, and they'll need care for about 5 months. I'm not really good at training rock-type Pokémon. And I have a lot of things to take care of myself. If it's not a problem for you, then I'd appreciate your help. Terence looked at the 4 released Nosepass. Their arms and legs seemed short, and it was hard to spot their mouths. Nosepass had red noses and deep blue bodies. After observing them for a moment, Terence spoke up. No problem, but about the price. How about a raise of 50 credits? Terence said with a smile, sounding like he was negotiating. As soon as the words left his mouth, AJ's expression changed. 400 credits? That's too much. Even if they are put in the Pokémon daycare, the price wouldn't be that high. You must have a weak point in your team. If these 4 can evolve into Probopass, they can be a great help in your upcoming ranking battles. And the academy is completely sealed off. Apart from special missions, you probably won't be able to leave. Otherwise, you wouldn't have entrusted a breeder class student like me to take care of your Pokémon. Even so, 400 credits are still too much. And feeding Nosepass isn't as challenging as with other Pokémon. You know, earning credits is not an easy task. I know, how could I not know? So you should understand us breeder class students. We are not good at battles, and our Pokémon's strength is not enough for rigorous training. Yet, in pursuit of a few credits, we bury ourselves every day in answering those annoying exam papers. Terence put on a pitiful expression, thankful that these words weren't overheard by other breeder class students, or they would have given this guy, who probably hasn't attended a single class, a hard time. Don't hesitate. You're giving a lot of credits, but if Probopass can cover your team's weak point and perform well in the upcoming ranking battles, you'll earn back those credits twofold. Besides, other than me, I doubt there's anyone else in the breeder class who could help your Nosepass make significant progress in 5 months. AJ stared suspiciously at Terence. The man's arrogant tone made him feel a bit anxious. Is this guy really reliable? Terence not only looked unfamiliar but also seemed quite young. The chubby student from the advanced class began to have second thoughts. After all, 400 credits were not a small sum for him. Well, how about this? I'll go back and think about it again. AJ scratched his head, revealing a simple and honest expression. Slap. Terence reached back and took out the small blue booklet. Geez. Anyway, you better think it through. Right now, I'm probably the only junior breeder in the entire breeder class. You met Cynthia 2 months ago, right? Wondering why she's so strong? It's because she's also a breeder. With me taking care of your Nosepass, in 5 months, your team will improve significantly, filling in the weak spots. This chance won't come again. As Terence produced his junior breeder certificate, everything seemed to fall into place seamlessly. The last line of defense in the chubby student AJ's mind was finally broken. During the time at the academy, besides seeking help from a teacher to take care of Pokémon, junior breeder Terence was the best choice. Terence felt delighted. He had spent 600 credits in 2 months, and now he immediately earned back 400. As for how to raise these 4 Nosepass into Probopass, he needed to make some preparations. Sinnoh region's MT Coronet was one of the best places for Nosepass to evolve. When Nosepass is in a place with a strong magnetic field, such as Sinnoh's MT Coronet, Unova's Chargestone Cave, or Kalos's Lumiose Badlands, it can sense the unique electromagnetic waves there. By reflecting this wave and combining with 3 other Nosepass, it can evolve into the 1.4 meter tall Probopass and gain the Steel type. Probopass can control 3 mini-noses through magnetic force, allowing them to fight individually, much like controlling floating cannon during battles. Since AJ has captured 4 Nosepass, he may already know about their evolution method. However, perhaps he hasn't figured it out yet and has a lot of other things to do, so he sought help from breeder class students. Both Nosepass and Probopass are excellent counters to Beautifly and Swablu. Having them as training partners is a good thing for me. Back in the dorm room, Terence began making a custom breeding plan for Nosepass based on Swablu and Beautifly's situation. The crucial first step in evolving them into Probopass is to let one of them sense the unique electromagnetic waves within MT Coronet. Based on their current situation, it seems none of them can do that yet. For now, I should focus on helping them improve their control over magnetic force. Even without referring to any materials, Terence knows about Nosepass habits. They use their magnetic force to hunt weak Steel-type Pokémon or attract nearby mineral-eating Pokémon. If left ignored over the years, one Nosepass could become exceptionally skilled in manipulating magnetic force due to frequent hunting. If these Nosepass can capture the unique electromagnetic waves found in places like MT Coronet, it could evolve by combining with 3 other Nosepass. In other words, these 4 Nosepass here currently haven't mastered magnetic force sufficiently. This is one of the reasons why AJ couldn't make them evolve immediately. It seems they don't need to eat minerals for now. Objects with magnetism are the most suitable food for them. Also, it is necessary to make them constantly train their magnetic force. After being captured by a trainer, they aren't able to use their magnetic force for hunting food anymore. While looking for food for them, Terence also collected dozens of steel marbles, each about the size of a coin, which would respond well to Nosepass's magnetic force. Nosepass could control them through magnetic force. So, with the 4 Nosepass guarding each direction, Beautifly and Swablu began their first round of specialized training reflex training. Both Swablu and Beautifly have relatively small bodies, so when the steel balls hit them, it caused significant pain. However, this pain served as a catalyst for them to concentrate intensely. Beautifly utilized air currents to dodge the steel balls, while Swablu relied on cotton guard and agility to evade them. However, controlling its subtle movements at high speed posed a challenge for Swablu. As for the Nosepass, using their magnetic force more effectively to control the steel balls and hit both little creatures became a challenging puzzle. In this way, while both sides were putting in their efforts, Terence also picked up books and started striving to reach the level of an intermediate breeder. Chapter 61, Applying to Go Out. One day, Terence went to collect Pokémon food as usual. On the way, he encountered Teacher Teresa, the breeder with exceptional Pokémon food-making skills. Although Teacher Teresa is not very old, she has her own way of doing things. She is open to listening to everyone's opinions and will pick the best ones to implement. She is seen as a gentle teacher by some students, and due to the small age gap with the students, she is able to easily blend in with them. Terence really likes this teacher, and not just him, but most of the students also adore this breeder teacher. She is helpful, kind-hearted, and although she occasionally displays a little impatience due to her anxiety disorder, it adds a touch of adorable contrast to Teacher Teresa. Compared to the stern homeroom teacher of the breeder class, Mr. Forrest, Terence preferred seeking advice from Teacher Teresa, especially regarding Pokémon food knowledge. Moreover, Teacher Teresa was quite beautiful. Terence appreciates the big sister type more than little girls like Little June and Candace. With her brown hair tied up in a braided bun, emerald green eyes, and a normal white dress adorned with golden embroidery and a broken colorful glass pattern in shades of blue, complemented by white stockings and a silver ring with a black line around the neck, she exuded an aura of intellectual beauty. "Kid, are you busy these days? Are you interested in going on a training journey?" Teacher Teresa, with an ever-present smile on her face, spoke. Not only did she possess excellent insights about breeding, but she also occasionally taught coordinator class students. Training journey. The training journey of the academy takes place within Mt. Coronet, a vast area that couldn't be compared to the size of 1 or 2 cities. It was the largest gathering place of Pokémon in the Sinnoh region, with a wide variety of species. At the same time, with so many Pokémon living there are bound to be some powerful Pokémon that stand out. The so-called training journey meant venturing into the wild, battling wild Pokémon, or capturing Pokémon that one likes to strengthen one's team. However, due to the dangers of Mt. Coronet, most of the training journeys were organized by the academy on a regular basis, with several students forming a team to participate. Furthermore, based on the students' performances, they would receive some credit rewards. "No, I have something else to do," Terence declined. "Well, that's a shame. Breeders are highly sought after in the training teams," Teresa expressed her regret. Terence smiled but didn't respond. "By the way, Teacher Teresa, do you know where to find raspberries and nutbee berries?" "Raspberries and nutbee berries? Yes, I wanted to use my credits to obtain them from the academy, but I found that these 2 types of berries are no longer available in the storage," Terence explained. In order to nourish Swablu's brain, Terence has temporarily changed its diet. Milk, dairy products, legumes, as well as raspberries and nutbee berries, which are rich in nutrients and excellent for memory enhancement and rejuvenation. They greatly aid in boosting brain power and maintaining overall health. If the academy doesn't have them, you might be able to buy them in Veilstone City or Hearthome City. But, if there are no special circumstances, you can't leave Mt. Coronet by yourself during your time at the academy, Teresa said. "There's no need to be so strict," Terence said bitterly. "Please, you must help me." Terence wore a pleading expression, but in truth, he had already planned everything. These 2 conveniently unavailable berries were carefully selected by him. After spending 2 months in the academy, he was getting bored and was looking for an opportunity to explore the outside world. Even during his time at the old greenhouse, he couldn't sit still. If it weren't for the necessity of memorizing breeders' knowledge, he couldn't have devoted himself so wholeheartedly to it. "It's quite troublesome," Teresa tilted her head, looking thoughtful. Terence held his breath. "All right then." Terence let out a sigh of relief. "I'll put in a request for you to be my assistant, and you can help me with some shopping. However, don't expect a high chance of success," Teresa said. "I understand, thank you," Terence made a V sign in his heart. Afterward, Terence continued his training with Nosepass, Swablu, and Beautifully. He designed several attack trajectories plans based on diagrams and computer drawings to which allowed Nosepass to coordinate well together, thereby increasing the pressure on Swablu. This training lasted only 1 day. To Terence's surprise, Teresa's request was quickly approved. This speed left a deep impression on Terence, the efficiency was simply astonishing. Fantastic! Not only did Terence want to go out to relieve some stress, but he also hoped to capture another Pokémon. Though he had a lot on his plate at the moment, a trainer couldn't be considered qualified without a basic team of 6 Pokémon. Life at Crown Academy was comfortable. With his focus solely on Swablu and Beautifully, Terence felt he could handle everything well, even while studying breeder knowledge simultaneously, without feeling overwhelmed. Though he might be able to capture Pokémon during the Academy's training journey, he preferred going on his own since traveling in a group could lead to disputes. Terence enjoyed acting alone. After obtaining the necessary permission to go outside, Terence happily exchanged some of his credits for the latest high-quality Pokeball produced by Silphco, the Ultra Ball, which he prepared for his potential new partner. Following the approval for his trip, Terence also bid farewell to Mr. Forrest. After all, he was his homeroom teacher, so he had to inform him out of courtesy. Additionally, Terence brought along 6 Pokémon, Swablu, Beautifully, and the 4 Nosepass that he was taking care of. During his outing, training might pause for a while, but it was inevitable. Taking some time to relax would greatly benefit the Pokémon. Under the dormitory building, Terence held Ralts's daily portion of food, which teacher Teresa entrusted him to deliver to Ralts. In the past few days, Ralts had been undergoing the same training as Terence's Pokémon. Terence could tell that Ralts was enjoying it. It longed to stand on the same stage as other Pokémon to prove it wasn't special. However, a Ralts that only knows Teleport is destined to be overlooked by most trainers. Training a Ralts who only knows one move Teleport, which could only be used to evade attacks, is not considered very helpful in battles by the majority of trainers. After all, in a battle, the key was the ability to attack. I'm leaving now, Ralts. Azza will bring you your food for a while, and you should cooperate with the teacher's research. Soon, you might be able to understand why you can't learn other moves. So, while I'm away, please don't neglect your teleport training. Ralts. Smiling, Terence touched Ralts's hand with his finger, stood up, stretched lazily. It had been a busy day, and now it was time to pack up and get ready for an early departure tomorrow. Chapter 60, Peeping Ralts. Swoosh. 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 Under the barrage of bullets, even though Swablu was flying at a high speed, it was in a sorry state. Nosepass were standing in the four corners, and although each of them was controlling only 2 steel balls, Swablu couldn't hold on any longer. Fearfully dodging a steel ball that nearly hit it with cotton guard, Swablu glared at Terence resentfully. On that day, Beautifully perfectly completed the reflex training, while Swablu was still struggling bitterly. In the beginning, Terence had each Nosepass control only 1 steel ball, and both Beautifully and Swablu found it relatively easy. But when the number of steel balls increased to 2, Beautifully could still barely sense the changes in the air currents to dodge them, however Swablu suffered greatly. Within a short minute, it was hit several times, causing Terence, the trainer, to wince in pain while watching. I can't be soft. The force with which Nosepass controlled the steel balls through magnetic force was even less than the impact from the move tackle. While the frequency had increased, they would be at a disadvantage in real battles without some resistance capabilities. And so, amidst Swablu's heartbreaking cries of chirp chirp chirp, the special training continued. The steel ball training lasted for about a week. Currently, Beautifully was facing a siege of 16 steel balls, while Swablu was still at the level of training with 12 steel balls. In just 1 week, the 2 little ones' nerves had become much more sensitive, and their resistance to beating had gradually improved. From becoming sluggish when hit in the beginning to now being able to instinctively overcome pain and observe the situation, they had made significant progress. The 2 little ones gradually seemed to adapt to this level of training, but Terence couldn't immediately increase their training intensity. Controlling 4 steel balls at the same time was already a limit for Nosepass in their manipulation of magnetic force. If they could further progress to control 5 steel balls in an orderly attack, it would indicate an improvement in their mastery of magnetic force. Is that little one still peeping? In the training area where Terence and the others were, a small green figure lurked in a secluded corner, secretly observing their training. It was Ralts, a Pokémon that lingers around here but has not been captured by anyone. When Terence arrived here, Ralts was already here. Defective. Terence silently muttered in his heart. He knew that this Ralts hatched from a Pokémon egg the Academy awarded to a certain student. However, after Ralts was born, it took 2 whole months for it to learn just 1 move. The student consulted the teachers about this issue, and the breeders in the Academy started paying attention to Ralts' situation. In the end, they all reached a unanimous conclusion: this Ralts has some defects. Apart from the teleport move it had awakened at birth, it couldn't learn any other psychic-type moves. Even with special teachings, it couldn't grasp moves of other types, not even the simplest ones like Double Team. At that time, Ralts' trainer was about to graduate, and the little Ralts' defect meant it couldn't be used in battles, so, at the suggestion of the teachers, the trainer returned Ralts to the Academy. The breeders would take care of it, observe its condition, and search for a solution to its issues. Since then, little Ralts felt it was abandoned due to its inability to help its trainer. So, every time Terence saw Ralts, it was always very silent. "Wanna join in?" Without turning his head, Terence asked. "Ralts, want to train with us?" Ralts is a feeling Pokémon, it could sense human emotions. From the moment Terence spoke, it unexpectedly found that it didn't sense any sympathy. Even a Meowth can learn human language through effort. Miracles happen, as long as one works hard, nothing is impossible to achieve. Terence wouldn't give up on any Pokémon, so his words were sincere. He wouldn't be bound by a Pokémon's so-called individual defects. Even if it could only use teleport, Ralts still has value. "Wanna give it a try?" Terence spoke again. "If you can use teleport, how about you have a little competition with Swablu?" After extending the invitation, Terence stopped paying attention to Ralts and redirected his focus to Swablu and the 4 Nosepass. Each Nosepass controlling 4 steel balls was already their limit. Beautifully could barely handle the simultaneous attack of 16 steel balls. Although it was challenging for it, it was already doing an outstanding job. In a short time, Swablu, Beautifully, and Nosepass were unable to make further progress. So, Terence needed to think about how to put more pressure on Swablu and Beautifully without increasing the number of steel balls. Starting tomorrow, the training method will change, and each Nosepass will go back to controlling 2 steel balls. Most importantly, while controlling the steel balls, Nosepass needs to add a move as an attacking method. Thunder Wave. It emits a weak electric shock to paralyze the opponent. Nosepass itself is a magnet, and generates a magnetic field around it. It can easily produce electric currents, and Thunder Wave is a type of electric current that induces a pronounced paralysis effect. Once a steel ball controlled by Nosepass hits the target, a faint electric current will flow into the body. Although not as strong as Thunder Wave, it can still have a greater impact on the 2 little ones in a short time. Moreover, although Nosepass could control the steel balls for attacks, they were doing it individually without any coordination. Terence planned to design an attack route, or you can call it an attack trajectory, for them to work together. Even with fewer steel balls and the addition of Thunder Wave, it would be enough to give Swablu and Beautifully a tough time. Coordinating with each other and mixing in Thunder Wave will also test Nosepass' mastery of magnetic force. Executing Thunder Wave according to a specific route will make the control much more difficult for Nosepass. Buzz! Swablu hastily dodged the steel balls. Suddenly, it was startled by the appearance of the small green figure in front of it without any warning. In a panic, it flew away and then turned back, throwing an inquiring look at Terence. Only when Terence smiled and gestured that it innocently flapped its wings and flew back, looking towards the field together with Terence. Under the assault of the 12 mixed steel balls, whenever they came at Ralts together, it would always place its hands near its mouth, whisper softly, and then instantly vanish, only to reappear. Not bad. Terence was amazed. Generally, Psychic-type Pokémon would feel extremely exhausted after using Teleport a few times and would have difficulty controlling their direction. However, Terence astonishingly found that Ralts, perhaps due to mastering only one move Teleport, was extremely proficient in using it. In 1 minute, it consecutively evaded 9 rounds of attacks from the Nosepass, and it even seemed at ease. Chapter 62, Goddess of Love Venus. Mt. Coronet stretches endlessly, seemingly echoing with a faint trembling sound. The icy snow-capped peaks towered majestically in the morning sky. The trees, now devoid of leaves, were adorned with abundant, fluffy, and heavy snowballs. After leaving the academy, Terence followed the same path back. Dressed in Crown Academy's sportswear, he was well prepared for the cold weather. After a busy night yesterday, Terence's first destination was the commercial district of Sootopolis City. Swablu was lazily perched on Terence's head, seeming somewhat listless in the icy weather. Terence spent the entire afternoon and evening processing medicine. Now, after traversing a long stretch of mountainous terrain, he was extremely exhausted, as evidenced by the prominent dark circles under his eyes. "You're a trainer from outside, right?" The sales clerk took the small bottle Terence handed over and showed a puzzled expression. "Perfume? You've come to the wrong place, we don't buy these. If it were some berries or herbs, we can purchase them at market prices to help trainers. But this stuff, there's no market for it." The shop assistant appeared helpless. "There's no market." "There isn't." Terence scanned the shop, filled with healing sprays, antidotes, ice heals, and mostly other medicines prepared for Pokémon. "This perfume of mine is also for Pokémon. Let's call it a potion that can attract the opposite sex for Pokémon. I believe if you explain it to trainers, it'll definitely sell," Terence confidently stated. The sales clerk remained doubtful, and asked in surprise, "Even so, your item isn't like herbs or berries, those are natural. Your perfume is processed. I can't take the risk." Ugh, Terence felt it was getting complicated and troublesome. Will this help? The only thing Terence could think of was his breeder certification. The sales clerk was clearly knowledgeable and his eyes immediately widened when he saw the certificate, finding it hard to believe. "You're a breeder. If you have a breeder certification, we can consider purchasing any kind of medicine as a priority. I need to consult with the manager." Terence was at a Pokémon store in Sootopolis City. Large chain stores hadn't yet appeared here, so various privately owned shops profited by importing items like antidotes, burn heals, etc. There were also shops run by breeders, selling some of their handmade trinkets to make a living. Terence was currently penniless, and whether he wanted to go somewhere or have a comfortable time outside, earning some money first was the most important thing. Yesterday, he had exchanged some materials from the academy and made this bottle of perfume with the aim of exchanging it for some money to cover his expenses during the trip. Goddess of Love Venus. That was the name of the perfume, and it wasn't Terrence's original creation, it was one of the potions from the Crown Academy's database. Its origin could no longer be traced, but its ingredients were quite common, and its effects were interesting. With plenty of free time on his hands, Terrence decided to mix it up and produce the potion. There probably aren't many people selling this kind of potion, right? Terrence chuckled. In the past, trainers rarely cared about their Pokémon's love lives, but things were different now. Decades ago, trainers were akin to soldiers, venturing into unknown lost territories for the League. But today, with the rapid advancement of technology, only the top-tier forces were truly needed to support the League's expansion. Using more people wasn't beneficial for the current human development and was just a waste of resources. Nowadays, Terrence felt that trainers were more like athletes from his previous life or certain specialized professionals. However, they are more popular among the public and leave a deeper impression, making them the mainstream profession of this world. Competitions like Pokémon Contests, the Lily of the Valley Conference, and the Elite Four Challenge competition often attract a lot of public attention, so trainers have gradually become a cultural trend, connecting a long economic chain. Terrence believes that a few years later, trainers should have become a part of every household if the storyline follows the original work. Even now, trainers were no longer the pioneering machines of the League, they were more like a special group pursuing their dreams. Friendship with Pokémon, their health, growth, appearance, and even love were all things that trainers cared about. Even if they are not trainers and are from ordinary families, having a Pokémon as a pet, friend, or family member is common. Therefore, certain potions that were previously overlooked, like Goddess of Love Venus, or similar perfumes that could dress up Pokémon, would eventually become popular in every corner. Darn it, that greedy fatto. Terrence walked out of the store, his expression not good. He explained the commercial value of Goddess of Love Venus to the store manager, but the person didn't seem moved at all. Terrence thought that when he mentioned the prospects of Goddess of Love Venus, the shop owner would grab his legs, and with tears streaming down their face, beg for cooperation, trying to retain such a treasure like him. Instead, the shop owner merely said, "Out of respect for you being a breeder, reluctantly, I'll buy some and see how it sells." Terrence felt like spitting blood. He managed to sell all 10 bottles for only 400 yen each. Even the mass-produced antidote sprays, despite having relatively common ingredients, didn't sell for much, which made Terrence feel disheartened. After all, it was crafted by a junior breeder, and the ingredients used weren't ordinary. The price he received was far below Terrence's expectations. He originally thought he could sell each bottle for at least 1,000 yen, or at least 800, but just thinking about how the secret formulas for protein, iron, and calcium were monopolized by big companies and were being sold by black marketers for nearly 10,000 yuan per bottle, Terrence couldn't help but feel speechless. While others multiplies their profits, he could barely break even. As a junior breeder, he couldn't even make a profit from his labor fees. With the corners of his mouth twitching, Terrence looked at the old bills in his hand, feeling somewhat distressed. These were obtained by exchanging credits, he had to be thrifty with them. Walking on the street, Terrence didn't head towards the harbor. With his current financial situation, taking a single boat trip would practically set him back to where he started before coming down from the mountains. Snowpoint City's harbor was probably the liveliest place because it was the only route to the battle zone. Ever since the battle zone was established some years ago, most of Sinnoh's trainers honed their skills there and challenged strong opponents. It was the most concentrated area for Sinnoh trainers, and many people from other regions also gathered there. Any trainer would want to visit the battle zone to witness countless trainer battles. Chapter 63, Arriving in Hearthome City. However, Terrence had no interest in battles. Being quite lazy himself, he had no plans to participate in any battles for the time being. If not the boat, the only option left was to choose a car. Due to environmental issues, Snowpoint City didn't have trains. According to what he knows, in his hometown Kanto, Saffron City already had a massive maglev train station that connected the Kanto and Johto regions. Time was of the essence, and with only half a month's leave, Terrence couldn't afford to waste any time. After some hesitation, he decided to carpool, opting for the cheapest option available. Using the public computer at the Pokémon Center, he contacted a car owner. It was a private car, and the owner was a local, heading to some place for business. Taking trainer Terence along was a way to earn some extra money for him. However, even by driving, it would take a day to reach Sootopolis City, where the car owner wanted to go. Terence had no choice but to accept it. He closed his eyes along the way, and before he knew it, they had arrived at their destination Sootopolis City. As soon as they reached the city, Terence wandered around randomly and then asked for directions. I want to challenge the Sootopolis gym. I think I'll join the Pokémon fan club. I heard there's a large swimming pool in Amity Square. Let's take our Pokémon there to relax. These were the voices of passers-by. And Terence's goal, from the moment he knew he was heading to Sootopolis City, was set on the Pokémon cooking house. It's one of the places recommended by teacher Teresa, Terence muttered as he arrived in front of a white building and seized it up. Various cutlery were graffitied on the walls, and Pokémon were eating their meals. I hope I can learn something here. Terence took a deep breath and entered. In fact, the people here were very hospitable. As soon as Terence pushed open the door, he received a warm welcome. Hey, boy! Are you here to learn or just to visit? Behind the counter, a uniformed young man wearing a badge shouted. Next to him was a young boy with purple hair, dressed in a dark blue formal attire. I'm here to visit. Oh! A visitor. Welcome, the uniformed young man said warmly. Please follow me. He waved his hand, making a welcoming gesture, and also turned to the young boy beside him, saying, Young Master James, welcome back. I have already informed the manager. In response, the purple-haired boy nodded gently, smiled at Terence, and then walked inside. Our Pokémon cooking house not only creates dishes for different Pokémon, but also researches ingredients with flavors that are jointly loved by different trainers and their Pokémon. In any case, coming here for a visit is the best choice. Are you even listening? The uniformed young man looked at Terence, who seemed indifferent, feeling a bit awkward. Sorry, my bad. Can I ask who that person was just now? As he gazed at the retreating figure and recalled the reverent address of young Master James from the uniformed young man moments ago, Terence was stunned. You mean young Master James? The uniformed young man pulled him aside. He's the child of an important guest of our boss. Notice how luxurious his attire is? It is said that he comes from a prominent family in Kanto and the liquid assets his family can immediately take out is several millions. He's a millionaire young master. PFF. Meowth? James? Team Rocket? Is this some kind of joke? Terence could forget anything, but Team Rocket, who had been a recurring theme throughout the story, which left a lasting impression on him. Then again, James did seem to come from a wealthy family and joined Team Rocket after running away from home. A millionaire, hey! Terence was speechless. Why did James run away from home, and what was the reason? It's too painful, can't think about it. Well, thank you, I'm going in now. Terence couldn't wait to strike up a conversation with James. Seeing Terence hurrying inside, the uniformed young man was puzzled. What is the purpose of having me as a guide then? Pokémon cooking house. James leaned against the glass window, his eyes twinkling as he watched the busy chefs and cooking apprentices, showing a yearning expression. I really want to cook with them. Though he thought that way, James just sighed. Even if he liked it, his mother would never approve. Being able to sneak out from the hotel while his parents attended the ball was already a victory. Sparkling radish, it would be even better if the slices were slightly thicker. James turned around in surprise and found that the one who spoke was a boy younger than himself. You also have knowledge about cooking. It's a basic skill for a breeder. Terence smiled. As in the anime, James's personality was gentle even when he was younger. Perhaps due to his upbringing, he always spoke with formality, maintaining the etiquette of high society. Or perhaps because he had few friends, Terence managed to draw out some information from him. As it turned out, James's parents had come to the Sinnoh region to discuss business matters with their partners, and incidentally brought James along to the Sinnoh region, which had been voted as the most suitable place to live. Sootopolis City, many families and young mothers seeking leisure, come to this place. A top-tier Pokémon hotel. It must be very expensive. Staying for one night at the Pokémon Hotel in Sootopolis City would cost as much as Old Greenhouse's expenses for a long time. Terence's attempt at striking up a conversation was remarkably effective, leading James to enthusiastically join in. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a suit rushed over. Young Master James, apologies for the wait. I am the manager of this Pokémon cooking house. Please convey my greetings to your parents on my behalf. We have prepared a sumptuous afternoon tea and pastries. Would you like to enjoy them now? The man in the suit said. Of course, we also have various Pokémon dishes. The cooks would be delighted to receive young Master James's evaluation. Really? James looked interested. I brought out Growly secretly, so it has been a day since it has eaten. Growly. The manager looked at Terence with a puzzled expression. Hey, Terence's face turned dark. How could he not recognize that it's the name of a Pokémon? Your thoughts are quite strange, uncle. It's a Growlithe, James said, and I heard that one of your chefs here is skilled at making dishes that both fire-type Pokémon and trainers can enjoy. Is that true? Can they really create dishes that cater to both humans and Pokémon tastes? Terence listened silently from the side. Well, the manager wiped his sweat. If James's parents found out they were letting him and the Pokémon eat together, the consequences would be severe. These big families, don't they just treat Pokémon as pets? Young Master James is indeed a formidable opponent. It's fine, Growly is my best friend, James said firmly. The manager wiped his sweat again, not knowing how to handle this request. He hesitated for a moment before reluctantly agreeing. James was delighted and eagerly pulled Terence along. Let's go together then. Hey? I can join too. Terence looked at the manager in the suit, without any intention of asking. What a joke, his current identity is. Of course, there's no problem. Young Master James's friend, our dishes will surely satisfy both of you. Chapter 64, Flame Cuisine. Thud. After enjoying their tea and pastries, Terence and James finally saw the famous flame cuisine of Sootopolis City's Pokémon cooking house. When the lid was lifted, a burst of searing light emanated from the plate, and Terence immediately smelled the tantalizing aroma. This feeling is heat wave move. Both Terence and James had sophisticated tastes. One was a breeder and the other was a young master who was used to exotic delicacies, so ordinary dishes rarely impressed them. The food on the plate resembled honeycomb briquette, but unlike regular briquette, it emitted a fiery red glow. Occasional sparks sizzled and the tantalizing aroma filled the air, indicating the extraordinary nature of this dish. It smells like spicy berry seeds. Terence took a sniff, the fiery red color of the dish radiating a glossy sheen from the roasting, especially the shape of the dish. Each spicy berry seed seemed to be held together by a rich broth, and the spiciness of the seeds combined with a strange, almost cloying aroma caused Terence's pores to open wide. James couldn't help but salivate as well. The two of them exchanged glances and couldn't wait any longer. They grabbed their utensils and moved towards the flame cuisine. It's not hot. In the spoon, a bowl of translucent red seeds shimmered with flames, but when Terence brought it to his lips, he felt only a warm breath, nothing like the flicker of sparks. Sweet. Rich. The rich broth blended with the seeds, spreading flavors inside the mouth, instantly filling both of their bodies and minds with a dense aroma. Lying on the ground, Growlithe also enjoyed the delicacy, squinting its eyes in apparent pleasure. The sounds of savoring the aftertaste were accompanied by the trembling of its taste buds. A spark shot out from Growlithe's mouth, and its body shook, instantly becoming more spirited. What is this sweetness? After the delightful sweetness came the swarming spiciness. This type of spiciness didn't just target the throat, it also teased the base of the tongue. It didn't erode the stomach either. It was as if the person tasting the dish was inside a volcano, bathing in molten lava. The entire body was enveloped by the onslaught of the heat wave, and in a mere moment, both individuals were drenched in sweat. Delicious, James exclaimed with a radiant expression. He had never tasted such a unique cuisine before. If only I could know the recipe and ingredients, Terence thought. No wonder teacher Teresa recommended him to come here. This flame cuisine alone surpassed most of the food he had ever tasted. Hee. Are you all satisfied? The head chef smiled proudly. The flame cuisine's chef was the heir to a unique secret recipe, a signature of their cooking house. No matter which guest had tasted it, they all praised it endlessly, without a single negative comment. Can we watch the cooking process? James asked. Of course, no problem. Terence was surprised that this exclusive secret could be shown to outsiders. The ingredients were spicy berry seeds, Combi's sweet honey, and a special secret sauce. As expected, Terence smiled. The only thing they could observe was the technique. The chef who had mastered the flame cuisine was a burly, muscular middle-aged man, and beside him stood a reddish-brown tortoise-like creature. There was a black-grey circular stripe on each limb and the long neck. Each foot has 3 claws, and there is a short tail at the back. The tortoise shell was predominantly black-grey with 5 fiery red depressions on it. Torkoal, Terence exclaimed. So, the chef and Pokémon cooperate in making the dish. What? James was amazed. Pokémon can also cook. Of course, just as you can see here. Torkoal's shell burns coal to generate tremendous energy, aiding the muscular chef by converting it into heat energy. The two of them moved with seamless coordination, smoke and flames enveloping the ingredients. The middle-aged man cooked with sweat pouring down his back, as he skillfully wielded the kitchen utensils, infusing the food ingredients with a harmonious explosion of color, aroma, and taste. Finally, accompanied by a heat wave unleashed by Torkoal, the middle-aged man donned heat-resistant gloves and swiftly sealed the lid shut. With a soft humming sound, the flame cuisine was thus completed. Brilliant! Terence and James applauded in admiration. Not only was the chef highly skilled, but Torkoal also demonstrated a remarkable mastery of the move. Moreover, the two of them were undoubtedly seasoned partners who have spent years together, as such perfect harmony and synergy wouldn't be possible otherwise. Amazing, James marveled. It was the first time he had seen someone collaborate with their Pokémon so closely, other than trainers. A seed was quietly planted in James's mind. Without lingering too long at the Pokémon cooking house, Terence departed. James followed along and asked Terence curiously, "You look like you've gained a lot from this experience." "Not really," Terence smiled. He had already figured out why Teacher Teresa had sent him here. After observing other chefs at the cooking house, he noticed a common trait among them: each one collaborated with their Pokémon to cook dishes. These chefs regard their collaboration with Pokémon as the primary focus of their practice, with Pokémon serving as their capable assistants, much like an extension of their hands. Is she trying to tell me that to raise Pokémon well, I should focus on interacting with them? Terence wondered. Or perhaps she wanted to show me that in Pokémon contests, it's not just about the Pokémon's performance. Terence shook his head. No matter what, Teacher Teresa recommended him to come here just to observe how professionals interacted with Pokémon, be it as helpers or partners. Hey, Terence, how far do you think the friendship between humans and Pokémon can go? James suddenly asked. Friendship? Yes. Why is it that I just want to make friends with other Pokémon, but my parents strongly oppose it? Even with Growly, even though it lives in a luxurious place, they only treat it as a pet. James couldn't understand. Terence was taken aback but then smiled. If you treat Growly as a friend, it will also consider you as one. Isn't that enough? And someday, your parents will accept Growly. Pokémon, as long as you treat them with sincerity, will surely reciprocate. Really? James was surprised. Of course, Terence assured him. Terence thought of Pokémon as friends and partners of humans from the very beginning. They could work together to accomplish various tasks, such as building houses, moving furniture, and going on adventures. Although he didn't know how these wealthy families taught their children, thinking about the bond between James, Jessie, and Meowth, Terence speculated that it must be quite profound. Maybe in the future, you'll meet more new friends. Believe in yourself and don't lose heart. Terence encouraged James. Terence. James looked at the slightly younger boy with gratitude. For James, who lacked friends, Terence's presence and understanding brought a different kind of warmth to the young heir of the prestigious family. Thank you. Chapter 65, Hearthome Conference. That place seems to be noisy, Terence muttered to himself. After parting ways with James, Terence wandered aimlessly. James was very reluctant to say goodbye. It was rare to find someone of the same age with whom he can get along so well, but it wasn't something he could change. He needed to return to the hotel before his parents came back, and Terence clearly wasn't going in the same direction. Regretful separation, waiting for the next reunion. Although Hearthome City is said to be a huge commercial center, Terence wasn't satisfied because he couldn't find a single decent large department store. It seems that to buy the things he needed, he could only set his sights on Veilstone City. The Veilstone department store there was reputed to be the best and largest department store in the Sinnoh region. Terence looked around as he contemplated his next move. As he walked toward the source of the commotion, a flustered girl called out to him. Excuse me. Could you tell me where the registration counter for the Hearthome conference is? A girl asked. She had teal-colored twin tails, and was dressed in a white tracksuit, appearing flustered. Could it be? I've already missed the registration time. When she said this, the girl showed a worried look. The Hearthome Conference. Terence was slightly surprised. The Pokémon Contest, right? Yes, the Pokémon Contest. The registration counter. The registration counter is usually inside the venue, right? If you're looking for the Pokémon Contest venue, it should be to the north of Hearthome City. It's in that direction, right next to Amity Square. Ah, really? Thank you so much. I have to hurry over and register, so please excuse me. The girl, overjoyed by the information, hurriedly ran in the direction Terence had pointed out. Pokémon Contest Hearthome Conference. Terence hesitated for a moment. It sounded quite intriguing. Since he rarely has time to come out, why not give the Pokémon Contest a try? After all, despite doing coordination training for so long, he is still a complete rookie coordinator. If he missed this opportunity, who knows when he will get another chance to participate in the Pokémon Contest. Let's give it a try, my debut battle. The girl just now seemed to mention that the registration time is about to end, right? So, is the Pokémon Contest scheduled for tomorrow? That works, I can just stay in Hearthome City for one more day. Terence, rarely interested in fighting, decided to participate in the Pokémon Contest, considering it as a form of entertainment. As for the nervousness of his first competition, Terence didn't feel it. Knowing yourself and your opponent is the key to victory. Whether it was research during his free time or him paying close attention during his time at Crown Academy, Terence had learned a lot about Pokémon contests. In Terence's view, whether it's the Hone region or the Sinnoh region, the level of Pokémon contests is far inferior compared to competition like the Evergrande Conference and the Lily of the Valley Conference. Only Grand Festival is worth taking seriously. Compared to a traditional trainer, coordinator is just a derivative profession, perhaps more likely to appear in front of the public than professions like rangers, but ultimately it is still a derivative profession. The mainstream in this world were the conventional battle trainers. However, coordinator can also be considered the profession derived from trainers with the widest audience appeal. They also form a tremendously vast group, among whom are individuals capable of rivaling exceptional trainers, such as the victors of the Grand Festival top coordinators. And this is precisely Terence's goal. Perhaps, he could also try to dominate all regions' Pokémon contests and become a Pokémon master. The next day, Terence, having successfully registered, arrived at the Pokémon contest venue. Registration for Pokémon contests is relatively lenient. Events like the Indigo Plateau and Lily of the Valley Conference require challenging 8 gyms, earning badges, and having the gym leader record the challenger's trainer ID data before participation is allowed. In contrast, the Hearthome Conference doesn't have such strict rules. As long as you are a citizen under the Pokémon League's jurisdiction, you have the right to sign up for the competition. The threshold for entry is much lower compared to traditional trainers. Next to Amity Square, countless coordinators preparing to compete were here, practicing moves with their Pokémon. Piplup, Shinx, Mewtwo, Floatzel, Glamour. Numerous Pokémon from the Sinnoh region were warming up with their coordinators before the competition. Until Terence's gaze fell on a skitty. By Terence's standards, this skitty had beautiful fur with a natural shine, indicating not only good care but also good innate talent. Especially when the skitty opened its narrow eyes, the brilliance of intelligence in its pupils suggested its cleverness. That person. The coordinator beside skitty caught Terence's attention. On closer look, it was the girl who had asked for directions yesterday. Did you find the registration counter? Terence walked over and greeted her. Oh, you're the person from yesterday, the girl said in surprise. I owe you thanks for that. If it weren't for you, I might have missed the registration time. By the way, I'm Abby, and this is my partner, Yahani. Abby. No need to be so polite, and besides, the registration deadline was 8 o'clock. You wouldn't have missed it no matter what, Terence replied. I'm Terence, and I also registered for this Hearthome conference. Now, we're opponents. Oh. You're a coordinator too? That's great. Please take care of me. It's my first time participating in the Sinnoh region's Pokémon contest. As I thought, judging from your accent, you're from the Hone region, right? Terence smiled. Both Skitty and the girl's appearance and accent gave him a sense of familiarity. You're right, Abby looked surprised. Hehe, let's get to know each other again. I'm also from Hone region, Terence said. Next, Terence tapped the pokeball at his waist. With a flash of red light, beautifully gracefully appeared. It circled around and finally landed on his shoulder. And this is my partner, beautifully. After saying that, both Terence and Abby burst into laughter. From the look of you, I guess this isn't your first time participating in a Pokémon contest? Abby asked. Well, Terence hesitated. Because you don't seem nervous at all. When I first participated in a Pokémon contest with Skitty, I was completely flustered. If Skitty hadn't performed remarkably, I would have embarrassed myself that time. I see. So, Abby is a veteran. I wouldn't dare say that, but I have already won a ribbon. Chapter 66 First Round. Half an hour later. Hearthome Conference Pokémon Contest Hall. The opening ceremony was about to begin, and the contestants were getting ready in the lobby. Let's go. I'm the announcer, Marion. The gorgeous and lovely Pokémon of passionate coordinators. The Pokémon contest is back, and this time, it's happening right here in Hearthome City. Alright. The victorious coordinator will receive this Hearthome ribbon, boosting their motivation towards the glorious Grand Festival. Miss Marion, presiding over the Sinnoh region's Pokémon contest as the announcer host, was full of energy as she enthusiastically stirred up the audience's emotions. She then gestured again, now everyone, please welcome the 3 judges who will be presiding over the contest. The 3 judges are the chief of the Pokémon Activities Committee, a dignified and mature-looking gentleman, who speaks with great etiquette, and the respected uncle who often travels with the contest committee, Raul Contesta. The president of the Pokémon fan club, with a simple appearance, eyes always half-closed, easy-going temperament, and famously known for saying remarkable, Mr. Sakaizo. And the female nurse of various Pokémon centers, Nurse Joy. Alright, let's quickly get started. After some formalities, Miss Marion waved her arm and once again passionately shouted. First round, solo performance stage. The first contestant, please come on stage. Terence and Abby were standing in the lobby, closely watching the Pokémon contest on the TV. The first to appear was a young boy wearing a blue shirt. As he threw out a Pokeball, a Shinx flipped in the air and landed gracefully on the stage. What an adorable Shinx! It has already won over the audience's hearts. Marion exclaimed. Shinx, use charge. Following the boy's command, Shinx's fur retracted, and then its whole body emitted a brilliant light. Let's begin. Shinx, spark move. Oh, impressive. After charging up, Shinx has used spark. Electricity has covered its body and it has started running on the stage. Shinx is quite fast, it truly looks like a streak of lightning darting across the stage. Such a vibrant performance. Very well done. Abby excitedly shouted. Terence looked at her. It's clearly just an ordinary display of moves. Combining charge and spark, it looks like Volt Tackle and it seems some thought has been put into the plan. But, is this what a Pokémon contest is all about? Whether it's elegance, beauty, cuteness, grandeur, strength, or a Pokémon's growth stage and combination of its moves, these are the things that test the coordinator themselves. They need to be perfectly displayed in the first round. The performance of the boy in the blue shirt just now fell far short of Terence's standards. The Shinx just now, its training can only be considered ordinary, and its consecutive moves can only be regarded as skillful. This aspect should have required diligent effort. However, its running trajectory lacked any sense of beauty whatsoever. The first round continued. After dozens of participants, it was finally Abby's turn. Go for it. Terence gave her a thumbs up, curious about Abby's skills. My goal is to become a top-notch coordinator. Abby clenched her fist, closed her eyes, then suddenly opened them and with a determined nod towards Terence, she began to walk confidently toward the stage. The next contestant is Miss Abby, let's give her a warm welcome. Marion continued to energetically hype up the atmosphere. As Abby stepped onto the stage, her demeanor changed. Terence noticed that she seems quite confident. Skitty, charm the stage. This is Attract move. Terence noticed an anomaly on Skitty through the TV. The moment it emerged from its Pokeball, Skitty unconsciously used Attract, showcasing its charm perfectly. So cute. The announcer rallied the audience, keeping the atmosphere heated. Not bad. Terence's interest was piqued slightly. After watching numerous performances, only Abby's Skitty had reached a level of training that he could commend. Well, let me see what unique qualities you have. On stage, Abby confidently gazed at Skitty. Since their debut, they have overcome many challenges. Now, at Sinnoh's first Pokémon contest, they are definitely going to perform perfectly. Skitty, rain dance. Hey! Terence was slightly taken aback. The command she had just given was rain dance? Next, the screen's content confirmed that Terence's hearing wasn't mistaken. Skitty stood on the stage, cutely swishing its tail, releasing an energy that formed a cluster in the air. Soon, dark clouds gathered. Drib! Drib! Within the stage's confines, a small drizzle began to fall. Abby smiled at the raindrops and issued another command, use blizzard. Who? A white mist shot out from Skitty's mouth, instantly freezing the raindrops in the sky, transforming them into pristine snowflakes. For the final performance, use safeguard. A mysterious white light enveloped Skitty. Simultaneously, the frozen snowflakes in the sky began to descend slowly. Skitty emitted a holy radiance, elegantly walking to the center of the stage, and finally, all the snowflakes fell, covering the stage in a frosty layer. However, the area where Skitty stood remained untouched by snow due to safeguard. At that moment, Skitty became the focal point of the entire stage. After a moment, following Marion's exclamation, the entire audience erupted in enthusiastic cheers. The ending was truly beautiful. Raul Contesta. Remarkable. Mr. Sukaizo. The most surprising thing isn't just the combination of Skitty's moves but Skitty itself. To be able to learn moves like Rain Dance, Blizzard and Safeguard, Skitty has showcased a distinct charm. Nurse Joy. Terence was also amazed. This Skitty's talent exceeded his estimate. The power of the moves was not substantial, so their execution was smooth and composed. Terence wondered if this was intentional, but if it's solely a Pokémon contest, the power of the moves was secondary. After all, it's not a battle, Pokémon's unique charm is the core of a Pokémon contest. You were really amazing. After Abby returned, Terence smiled and gave his assessment. Well, of course. Terence, you must do your best too. Abby was happy due to her successful performance. A moment later, it was Terence's turn. With this, the first round was nearing its end. I'm going. Terence said to Abby. Give it your all. Abby cheered him on. Next up, let's welcome contestant Terence, who is participating in the Pokémon contest for the first time. We hope the Hearthome conference leaves him with wonderful memories. Terence? First time? Both questions came from the audience seats in the lobby. Abby couldn't believe that Terence, whom she had judged to be a veteran, was actually participating for the first time. He was much more composed compared to her first time at a Pokémon contest. Crying face, TN, crying emoji. As for the one who was puzzled by Terence's name, it came from the VIP seats in the audience. James, with his purple hair, was sitting beside an elegant couple, eagerly watching the performance. When Terence's name was called, he surprisedly directed his gaze downward, searching. Is that Terence? Is he also participating in the Pokémon contest? It's him. As Terence walked onto the stage, James recognized him. Uncle Sebastian, record it. Uncle Sebastian was an elderly man who respectfully stood behind the VIP seats. Upon hearing the young master's order, he couldn't help but hesitate. James. James' mother looked at him in confusion. I'm watching a Pokémon contest for the first time and want to make a memento. James explained. Mind your manners. James' father glanced at him. If you want to record, you can go to the competition organizer afterward and make a copy. I understand. As Terence stepped onto the stage, he felt like he had become the center of attention. Giving a slight smile and a nod, he threw out Beautifly's Pokeball. Chapter 67, Stunned Audience and Electric Whirlpool. Making a simple entrance, Beautifly made no flashy moves. While it could have also used the Attract move, Abby had already showcased that before, so Terence didn't plan to use it. The simple entrance, coupled with Terence's silence, fueled the audience's anticipation. What kind of performance would it be, exactly? At the judges' table, their eyes lit up. Though not explicitly mentioned, the judges compare the growth of Pokémon to the average standards of similar Pokémon. Pokémon which has been raised outstandingly naturally exude a unique charm. Beautifully was precisely such a Pokémon. On stage, under the gaze of countless eyes, Terence took a deep breath, intending to have Beautifully execute that combo. Beautifully, use gust. Upon receiving the command, the gracefully hovering Beautifully emitted a soft hum in midair. With a graceful motion of its beautiful wings, Beautifully danced slowly, its wings showcasing a colorful and mesmerizing rhythm as they unfurled. Though the breeze was gentle, the audience could discern the gradually forming currents in the air. Such incredible control! I feel like the wind is taking shape on the stage. What could it be? Marion exclaimed. Shape, or rather, a subtle structure, was clearer to Marion, who was closer than the audience. Well, then I'll let you see it clearly, Terence said with a faint smile. Beautifully, lie down and use string shot. Upon hearing the command, Beautifully, with its wings fluttering, tilted its body to the side. It appeared as if its entire body lay flat in the air. Its wings continued to stretch, but simultaneously, Beautifully's long, needle-like mouth curled up into a round shape, releasing strands of white silk. Like a fountain, these strands scattered into the air. As its colorful wings danced, the pure white silk shot into the air. Beautifully swayed its round head and the silk continued to increase. Oh, Marion gasped in surprise. The silk seems to be moving with the airflow. Initially, the upward spraying silk resembled silver chains hanging in the sky, akin to a fountain or a beautiful blooming flower. However, after following Marion's directions, the audience astonishingly realized that the spat-out silk didn't fall, instead, it fluttered continuously with the invisible currents, and eventually, guided by a certain rhythm, it began to form a spiral. This is whirlpool. After the quantity of silk strands reached a certain threshold, the general shape was finally discernible to people. Above Beautifully, a massive white vortex churned incessantly. Air currents revolved swiftly around the axis of the vortex, drawn by the significantly reduced pressure at its center. From all sides beneath Beautifully's body, airflow was sucked into the bottom of the vortex, just above the stage's surface. Wow, amazing, Marion exclaimed. The audience seats, judges' table, the lobby, everyone focusing on this performance was captivated by the colossal white whirlpool. At this moment, all eyes were on Beautifully, who was beneath the whirlpool. Is it not over yet? Someone wondered. Beautifully continued to spit out silk, which was connected to its long mouth, causing the enormous white whirlpool to look as if it was connected to Beautifully. Lying flat in the air, Beautifully, relying solely on its tiny body, raised the whirlpool that kept accelerating and radiating a milky white halo. The scene was incredibly stunning. Zzz. Zzz. Just as everyone admired Beautifully's control over string shot and gust, electric currents merged into the silk, causing the white color on top to gradually change, shining with a golden light. As the zaps accelerated sharply, in that moment, everyone watching the performance seemed to hear the chirps of thousands of bird Pokémon. Electroabe. As the golden currents spread gradually from the bottom, the entire audience was collectively taken aback. It's changing color! Marion exclaimed in astonishment. The conservative estimate of the silk forming the whirlpool was several kilometers long. This silk, created by Beautifully expending significant stamina and energy, covered nearly half the stage. The constant frequency of its rotation even slightly unnerved the judges. Could it be the Electroabe move? Sitting among the judges' panel, Nurse Joy's eyes were slightly curious. Not just her, the already impressive performance escalated the atmosphere in the venue with the influx of golden electric currents. Zzz. Zzz. After 5 seconds, the enormous white whirlpool seemed to ignite, electric currents suffusing the air. With crackling sounds, the entire whirlpool transformed into a sea of golden electricity. On the continually spinning whirlpool, golden currents flowed, emitting a dazzling, scorching light. It was as if the whirlpool was inlaid with a layer of gold, resembling the sparkling ripples on a golden ocean, a sight of incomparable beauty. So beautiful! A child in the audience involuntarily exclaimed. In the lobby, Abby gazed at the radiant Beautifully on the stage, speechless for a moment. Everything was perfect, whether it was the combo of moves or their execution or how the Beautifully was raised, it exuded the essence of a top coordinator. Amazing! James' mouth slightly opened wide. Sensing the change in the atmosphere, he understood that Terence had done something extraordinary. This is electric whirlpool! Marion shouted with excitement. As everyone knows, whirlpool is a water-type move. But contestant Terence, using the combo of 3 moves, gust, string shot, and electro-abe, has shown us a unique whirlpool. It's absolutely beautiful. It's hard to believe that contestant Terrence is participating in a Pokémon contest for the first time. On the live screen, the camera focused on the electric whirlpool. In the video, whether it was a vortex or a whirlpool, beautifully held up the whirlpool like a thundercloud. At this moment, its charm was showcased to the fullest, projecting a unique demeanor. The entire audience was stunned. Then, how are the judges going to evaluate this performance? Incredible combo! I never thought that air currents could control the trajectory of string shot, and especially the charm when the electric currents ignited the entire whirlpool. The strong contrast between white and gold was truly stunning. Raul Contesta exclaimed. Remarkable! 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 Mr. Sukaizo smiled. Presenting such a beautiful spectacle by seamlessly combining different moves. Whether it's the charm of beautifully itself or the impact brought by the electric whirlpool, even sitting here, I can imagine the sweat and effort put in by the coordinator and the Pokémon behind it. This is a remarkably exceptional performance which is rarely seen in a Pokémon contest. Nurse Joy smiled as she gave her evaluation. Well, it seems that contestant Terrence has received unanimous recognition from everyone. Perfect score. Excellent evaluation. As Terrence walked down, he was engulfed in a thunderous applause and the cheers of the audience. The performance was a resounding success. In the corridor, Abby eagerly pulled Terrence, staring at him in disbelief. Hey, you! You're actually this amazing! Chapter 68, Contest Battle. Amazing! Terrence smiled wryly. This isn't about being amazing, it's the result of Beautifly's own effort, Terrence said. To learn this combo, it has put in quite a bit of effort. From sensing air currents, to perfecting string shot and getting proficient in electro-abe, each step is indispensable. Meanwhile, electric whirlpool is also the most challenging technique Beautifly has grasped so far. Since it was his first time participating in a Pokémon contest, and considering it's the last Pokémon contest he will enter in the near future, Terrence revealed this technique so early. However, these techniques, whether Beautifly or Swablu has mastered it or not, are destined to be showcased only in the first round of the Pokémon contest. Their extended preparation time isn't possible in battles. These techniques are designed specifically to accentuate a Pokémon's own charm. Absolutely, absolutely fantastic. Beautifully was truly dazzling back then. Abby wasn't stingy in her praise, once again pulling Terrence as they headed to the lobby to discuss the Pokémon contest. Terrence didn't refuse Abby's inquiries. After a thorough discussion, the two unexpectedly found that their focus was on how to raise Pokémon itself. Pokémon contest. Coordinators showcase their Pokémon's appearance and moves. And whether it's appearance or moves, it's all built upon the foundation of raising Pokémon. Pokémon contest has an unwritten rule: Pokémon's appearance isn't compared to other contestants' Pokémon. It's about what makes the appearing Pokémon stand out among Pokémon of its kind, what it excels in comparison to others. There's no judge who compares the outward appearances of Mook and Melodic. So, in the first round, a Pokémon's healthy growth, beauty, all affect the judges' scores. Pokémon cared for by breeders naturally have an advantage in the appearance category. At the same time, it tests the judges' standards. As for the use of moves, it's a means to magnify the charm of a Pokémon's appearance and its own uniqueness, allowing others to understand. Elegance isn't just a facade. Terrence has always believed that the gorgeous techniques displayed by outstanding top coordinators aren't just for show. In this aspect, even the previously demonstrated electric whirlpool doesn't meet the criteria. That's why he admires the criteria set by the older generation's top coordinator, Mr. Wan, the most. Mr. Wan focuses on elegance during the battle and hopes that other trainers can also engage in battles gracefully. Even if it's a seeking, Mr. Wan can grasp its innate resistance to electric-type moves and command it to use its Horn Drill move to elegantly reflect moves like Thunderbolt and Thunder, which are powerful against Water-type Pokémon, back at Water-type Pokémon using its tough horn full of racial charm. Due to his acquaintance with Wallace, Terrence has paid attention to this master and student duo from Sootopolis City and astonishingly discovered that both Wallace and his master Wan dominated the grand festivals with their splendid performances as top coordinators. During the past Sootopolis gym challenges, Mr. Wan also appeared to place considerable importance on guiding trainers through elegant battles, aiming to help them appreciate the distinctive charm of their Pokémon. As long as trainers displayed some level of understanding, Sootopolis gym would grant a certain degree of passage, signifying approval towards the trainer. So, Terence firmly believes that an excellent top coordinator might also be a trainer with remarkable strength and proficient in battles. Here Thome Conference had less than 100 contestants. After Terence's performance, there weren't many contestants left. So, following a brief halftime pause, the second round began right away. The second round contest battle is about to start. In the limited time of 5 minutes, the key to victory is to use moves elegantly to reduce your opponent's score. In other words, even in heated battles, scoring hits or incapacitating the opponent won't greatly reduce their score. In the second round contest battle, for a legitimate coordinator striving to become a top coordinator, it's essential not to neglect showcasing a Pokémon's charm with stylish moves during battles. This is the pride of a coordinator. In the first round, Terence unsurprisingly passed with a perfect score, even ranking first. So, in the second round contest battle, Terence would be the first to take the stage as a seeded contestant. First up, Mr. Terence from this side. Next is Ms. Hibiki from the other side. You have a time limit of 5 minutes, and there's no pause system. Please start the match. Ding! For the two stepping onto the stage, the countdown on the screen marked the official start of the battle. Terence's opponent was a young girl. Perhaps due to watching Terence's first round performance, she looked very serious, like she was facing a formidable enemy. The opponent is strong. I'm counting on you, Lopunny. Beautifully, it's your turn to shine. The fur at the front of Lopunny's ears was neatly groomed, looking very beautiful. It was evident that she had taken meticulous care of it. The opponent seemed to frequently show Lopunny's charm through its ears. However, as soon as the two Pokémon appeared, Lopunny's condition appeared a bit peculiar. Its infatuation state. Contestant Terence's beautifully has used attract move right away. This is the same strategy contestant Abby used in the last round. It seems Lopunny is in a bit of trouble. How will Ms. Hibiki solve this? Opposite genders, what a coincidence. Terence chuckled, not expecting Beautifly's luck to be this good. Humph, don't underestimate my Lopunny. Use your ear to strike the ground, splash. Hibiki exclaimed loudly, as if trying to awaken Lopunny through sound. While under the infatuation state, a Pokémon will find it difficult to use its moves. However, Pound and Splash are instinctual skills deeply ingrained in Lopunny's memory, similar to how flying-type Pokémon are naturally adept at flying. These moves are easy to use. After Lopunny squatted down, its long ears slapped the ground. It didn't attack, just hopped around. However, due to the rhythmic tapping and jumping, this frequency of movement immediately snapped Lopunny out of the infatuation state. Splash isn't an attacking move. It's a form of movement method. The most famous user is Magikarp. Lopunny seems to have recovered from the infatuation state. Contestant Hibiki has employed a clever method to break through it and showcase Lopunny's charm. Contestant Terence's score has been reduced somewhat. Nice skills. Beautifully, be careful of its ears, Terence advised. There is no use being careful, it's not over yet. Lopunny, use Splash to execute Bounce. Hibiki said. Next, the hopping Lopunny gathered its strength and used Bounce to soar high into the sky, nearing the roof of the venue and reaching near Beautifully. Bounce is a flying-type move. Through the use of its ears, Lopunny showcased astonishing jumping power and aerial abilities. In this state, do you think Lopunny has an advantage in agility over Beautifully in the air? Terence asked. Beautifully, use Air Cutter. Chapter 69, Decisive Battle with Abby. Looking at Lopunny in the sky, Beautifully fluttered and rapidly flapped its wings, creating several blades of wind, directly aiming at Lopunny's position. An opening. Lopunny, use Jump Kick and accelerate your descent towards the thin gap in the Air Cutter. Compared to the preparation time of Bounce, Jump Kick was faster, especially using the advantage of the high altitude, causing Lopunny's speed to reach its peak. Exploiting the opening in the Air Cutter, she targeted Beautifly's location directly, causing Hibiki to catch a glimpse of the light of victory. I have to say, you fell for it so easily. Terence. Terence was speechless, his opponent really is naive. This opening clearly looked like a trap, yet she jumped right in. In the moment Lopunny made a move, Beautifully quickly wove an electro-abe. Hearing the crackling sound, Hibiki's heart jumped. Not good. Lopunny, change direction quickly. Oh no. Due to the inertia from Jump Kick's acceleration, Lopunny can no longer control its descent. Marion explained. On the stage, a large golden net formed and Lopunny looked like prey trapped in a snare. Crackle, the tingling sensation reached Lopunny's nerves, making it pause. The effect of Electroabe greatly slowed down Lopunny's descent. Beautifully has successfully caught Lopunny's attack, leading to a reversal of the situation. Lopunny has fallen into a trap due to Beautifly's clever plan, and Miss Hibiki's score is rapidly decreasing. It's fine, Lopunny, find a way to break free quickly. Hibiki exclaimed anxiously. Checkmate. Terence said. Breaking free? Not a chance. Leaving aside the toughness of Beautifly's silk, the impact of paralysis on Lopunny was also remarkably evident. Especially since Electroabe's silk remains under Beautifly's control, the outcome is already decided. Giga Drain. Several white silks hid within the golden web. When Terence gave the command, Beautifly immediately controlled the silks and wrapped them around Lopunny's body. Under the Giga Drain, Lopunny weakly cried out, its energy continuously being drained, leaving its body in a state of fatigue. Lopunny Hibiki exclaimed in shock. In the end, Lopunny couldn't escape the double attack of Electroabe and Giga Drain, regrettably losing consciousness. Thus, Terence's first contest battle ended in victory. Alright, then the winner of the first contest battle is contestant Terence. With Miss Marion's announcement, the audience burst into enthusiastic applause. On the stage, Hibiki withdrew Lopunny with a disappointed sigh. Next, it was time for the closing ceremony for the victor and the defeated. And for the judges' comments. That was amazing, Air Cutter skillfully guided the coordinator's judgment. Raoul Contestas said. Remarkable. Mr. Sukaizo added. Miss Hibiki used Lopunny's ears to dispel the captivate state, which excellently showcased Lopunny's uniqueness. But what I didn't expect was that string shot could also be hidden within Electroabe. It seems that Beautifly is very skilled in using string shot, a splendid technique only seen in contest battles. Nurse Joy of Hearthome City remarked. Lobby. When battling, weren't you nervous? Even I was really nervous watching the battle from the side. Abby said. It was all right, but considering it was my first time in a contest battle, I must admit I felt a bit out of my element. Terence thought back on his battle and felt that it was a little difficult. It wasn't the difficulty of winning the battle, but the constant need to showcase the charm of the Pokémon through the moves. For any coordinator, this was a challenging task. Anyway, congratulations on advancing to the next round of the competition. The second round of Pokémon Contest was still underway. Trainers who passed the first round were taking the stage one by one, showcasing their proudest abilities in these cute and charming duels. Who will be the one to gracefully advance to the final stage and obtain the prestigious Hearthome ribbon representing glory? Miss Marion's enthusiastic commentary echoed in the venue. Next, through layers of battles, 8 participants who passed the first review advanced, and Terence, with an absolute advantage, successfully reached the finals. Next, after a series of battles among the 8 contestants who passed the first round, Terence, with an absolute advantage, successfully advanced to the finals. In Terence's words, the standard of the Hearthome Conference left him quite disappointed. The battles he went through were practically a breeze, with most of the coordinators who cleared the first round either being all show with no substance, lacking the knowledge of how to battle effectively, or they had insufficient experience to handle intense situations. Perhaps one needs to attend the Grand Festival to truly test their limits. Terence stared at the big screen, speaking to himself. It's finally here. In the final match, Abby was facing another male coordinator. With its petite body, Skitty continuously dodged, using various different moves to showcase its unique charm. It consumed all the time and won the match with a high score advantage. The final opponent has appeared. Terence didn't expect that Abby would make it all the way to the finals, becoming his opponent. However, considering Skitty's skill level, perhaps it wasn't surprising. I'm really looking forward to this fight with you, Abby excitedly spoke to Terence before the final. Because, in my first Pokémon contest here in the Sinnoh region, I had the chance to meet a skilled competitor like you, Terence. I'm really pleased. I feel the same way. I hope this battle can leave us with profound memories. Terence smiled. Alright, the exciting and nerve-wracking final match is finally here. What kind of showdown will Mr. Terence and Miss Abby bring us in this final match? Everyone, let's look forward to it. In the VIP seats, James clenched his clothes, silently praying, Terence, you have to win. Seeing Terence's impressive performance all the way, James, as his friend, was genuinely delighted. He had already decided to collect all the recordings of Terrence's Pokémon contests afterward as his most precious memories. As important as his bottle caps. On the stage, Abby and Terrence locked eyes until the countdown sound began, and both simultaneously tossed out their Pokeballs. Skitty, charm up. Beautifully, charm up. The charm up was merely meant to better showcase Pokémon's cute or beautiful appearances. Meow. Chirp. After the previous matches, it seems that Skitty and Beautifully are also brimming with enthusiasm, Marion said. In this round, Mr. Terrence seems to have taken the initiative. It's Beautifly's Gust move. Gust, a commonly used opening move by Terrence's Beautifully. It provides excellent control over air currents. Regardless of the wind speed, Beautifully can quickly adapt and utilize it to its advantage. Whether it's for flying speed or agility in evading attacks, this skill offers significant benefits. At the beginning, creating favorable conditions was crucial. Sure enough, you are using Gust. Then, Skitty, use Blizzard. Abby countered, not willing to be outdone. Chapter 70, The Key to Victory. Look, Skitty has used the Blizzard move once again, and the frigid mist is directly attacking Beautifully, the announcer Marion explained passionately, constantly heating up the atmosphere of the venue. Dodge it, Terrence spoke, giving a simple evasive command. Skitty's Blizzard has a limited range, whipping towards Beautifully like a lash. In the face of this direct move, Beautifully had no reason not to dodge. The two Pokémon stood on the stage, with Beautifully positioned diagonally above Skitty, forming a 45-degree angle. Under Abby's command, Skitty continuously displayed its proud moves. Blizzard. Solar Beam. Thunderbolt. Skitty was proficient in various types of moves. As it executed them, Terrence's score gradually decreased. Showcasing its unique charm, for a Skitty of its species, reaching this level of performance aligned with the Pokémon Contests criteria for score reduction. However, Beautifully gracefully hovered above the stage. Despite the frontal assault and the relatively fast speed of the moves, it effortlessly dodged, thanks to Nosepas's reflex training, which has enhanced Beautifly's agility. The moves were evaded, and Abby's total score dwindled. The two were evenly matched for a short period. Should I waste time? Terrence assessed. Continuing this stalemate would cause both scores to drop simultaneously, making victory uncertain. But what he aimed for was absolute victory. Beautifully, no need to evade anymore. Counterattack with Air Cutter. Swoosh. 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 To prevent Skitty from attacking again, Beautifully swiftly conjured 3 wind blades before launching them towards Skitty. Skitty, stabilize your body and shatter them with Iron Tail. Meow. Following Abby's instruction, Skitty opted for a powerful attack. A metallic gleam appeared on Skitty's tail, then it leaped into the air, and shattered the 3 air cutters one after another. Beautifully, use String Shot and entangle it. Terrence commanded. However, Skitty was unexpectedly nimble. Faced with the pursuing String Shot, it still managed to dodge. Very impressive. Abby might be the only contestant that Terrence has encountered in the Hearthome conference that has showcased the coordinator style most perfectly. Whether it was by using Skitty's endearing gestures to showcase its charming appearance or by employing a variety of moves of different types to accentuate the allure of this unique Skitty, the opponent had put in quite an effort. After all, even Beautifully hadn't yet learned Solar Beam. But, haven't you overlooked something? Terrence thought. A coordinator is called coordinator because they don't only excel at evasion and dazzling moves. They are also trainers, and battling is part of their skill set. While Skitty was indeed quite impressive, its level was too low. Even if it learned various stunning moves, it couldn't greatly affect Beautifully. Hence, Beautifully would win. Quiver Dance. The ultimate transformation move of a bug-type Pokémon, a graceful, mysterious and beautiful dance that enhances attack, defense as well as speed. This dance showcases Beautifly's signature colorful patterned wings, providing all spectators with a visual delight. This move, theoretically learned at a high level, was awakened during training with Nosepass. Beautifully discovered this move through training. This marked Beautifly's capability to stand on its own. Abby gazed solemnly at the fluttering Beautifully, suddenly having a bad premonition. Skitty, interrupt it with Thunderbolt. A thick, golden electric pillar surged from Skitty, headed straight for Beautifully. However, in the quiver dance state, Beautifly's speed wasn't just slightly improved, the move Tailwind could be used more skillfully. This thunderbolt was destined to miss. It's our turn now. Beautifully, use Silver Wind. Or rather, Golden Wind. Silver Wind is a move that incorporates shield dust into the wind to attack the opponent. The unique cutting attribute of shield dust inflicts damage on the enemy. However, at this moment, Beautifully used the same technique by incorporating yellow stun spore into the wind, making Silver Wind appear as a golden twister, incredibly gorgeous. Oh no, Abby ordered anxiously, Skitty, use Safeguard. In the quiver dance state, the force and speed with which Beautifly's wings fluttered were unexpectedly great. In the blink of an eye, the golden wind was complete. As for Skitty, the use of Safeguard made it seem mysterious, emitting a white holy aura. Whether golden wind would be effective or not, it's unknown. It's here, it's here. The incredibly elegant Safeguard and the magical golden wind, which side will emerge victorious? Will Safeguard successfully defend against golden wind, or would golden wind break through Safeguard's defense? Terence wasn't interested. In battle, seizing every opportunity was the key to victory. He didn't want to engage in meaningless speculation about the collision of their moves' results. Giga Drain. While everyone's attention was captivated by the golden wind on the stage, Terence issued another command. His command not only surprised Abby but even Marion didn't know how to comment. Contestant Terence has issued another command, but Skitty is amidst the yellow dust. Can Beautifully still accurately locate its position? Everyone nervously looked at the stage, feeling on edge for Skitty. A moment later, the dust from stun spore dissipated, and Skitty was still standing on the stage, causing everyone to breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed that Safeguard had successfully defended against golden wind. Not good, not good. Skitty has been caught by silk threads. Marion hadn't initially noticed, but when she saw Skitty's tired expression, she noticed this detail clearly. Beautifully aimed the string shot in the dust and successfully caught Skitty. How's this possible, Skitty? Abby became nervous. Caught by Beautifly's Giga Drain, Skitty had no chance of recovering. The balance of victory has tipped heavily toward Terence's side. But what puzzled everyone was how, under those circumstances, Beautifully could ignore visual obstacles and accurately catch the tiny Skitty. The victor has been determined. Skitty has lost its ability to battle, and Mr. Terence holds the advantage in score. It looks like we have a winner for the Hearthome City's Pokémon Contest Hearthome Conference. Let us congratulate Mr. Terence, he will be awarded the highest honor of the Pokémon Contest, the Hearthome Ribbon. Before we move to the award ceremony, I'm sure everyone has the same question. Why was Mr. Terence so confident that Beautifully could catch Skitty? I wonder if Mr. Terence can explain this for us. Marion approached Terence, handing over the microphone. It's the compound eyes. If there's a Pokémon breeder in the audience who knows about Beautifully, they would surely be aware that Beautifly's aquablue compound eyes are made up of over 20,000 small eyes. This means that even in dim lighting conditions, light can still refract into other small eyes, allowing the photoreceptors within each adjacent eye to sense the refracted light. So, even in low light, objects can still form an image. This is the reason Beautifully could roughly locate Skitty's position, Terence explained. As expected. Nurse Joy on the judging panel has a look of I knew it on her face. Terence is quite knowledgeable. James commented. It seems. I didn't lose unfairly. Abby stood on the other side of the stage, comforting Skitty while looking towards Terence. Compound eyes. Mr. Terence has an in-depth understanding of his own Pokémon. Truly impressive. Next was the closing ceremony. As the victor of the Hearthome Conference, Terence attracted the gaze of the entire crowd, receiving enthusiastic applause and well wishes from everyone. Simultaneously, he received his first ribbon. And thus concludes the vibrant Hearthome Conference. Let us look forward to the next one. Chapter 71, Leaving Ensolation Town. Terence, congratulations on your victory, Abby said, I just didn't expect that I'd lose so easily. After speaking, she gave a bitter smile. Then, I'll be returning to the Hone region. I plan to work hard for the grand festival there. Terence, don't you dare slack off while in the Sinnoh region. Are you not going to continue your challenges in the Sinnoh region? Terence asked. No, coming to the Sinnoh region was just a coincidence, she shook her head. I see. Well, I'm glad to have battled against you. You've done a great job raising your Skitty. With some more battle experience, I believe you can become a top coordinator. Speaking of returning to Hone, I can recommend a place that's very suitable for coordinators, Terence said. A place. Yes, the official gym of Sootopolis City in the Hone region. If you have the time, you can go challenge it. I believe you'd gain a lot from it. Besides, there's no rule that coordinators can't challenge gym matches, right? Sootopolis gym, is that Mr. Wan's gym? Abby asked. You know Mr. Wan? That makes things easier. As a top coordinator from the older generation, his battling style is worth learning from. I've also been greatly inspired by him, Terence said. Alright, I'll definitely visit Sootopolis City. How about we have a competition to see who becomes the top coordinator first? Abby suggested. Sure. Terence agreed. However, Terence wasn't certain when he would challenge another Pokémon contest. With his current beautifully and Swablu, he wasn't confident enough to dominate the grand festival. Challenging Pokémon contests, Terence's appearance this time was destined to be a brief moment in the spotlight. Winning the Pokémon contest at this age and with such skill would undoubtedly draw the attention of some observant individuals, perhaps even gaining him a few fans. These people would surely keep an eye on other Pokémon contests, looking for Terence's presence. However, their efforts were bound to be in vain. Terence intended to go through Veilstone City and then directly return to Crown Academy. After staying for one more day, Terence bid farewell to Abby. The regret was that he didn't encounter James again. Exiting Hearthome City, about a day's journey away, was a place called Cerulean Town. When Terence arrived, he was attracted by the town's peaceful environment. Most residents of Cerulean Town were settled nomads. There were many large ranches in the town, and most of the residents lived on the western side, near the main road. The town's eastern side was all trees and steep roads. Due to the ranches, there was a daycare established by an elderly couple. They often helped care for the newly born Pokémon on the ranches. As Terence rarely came across a daycare, he couldn't help but pay a visit when he arrived. Are you a traveler? Terence was received by an elderly man. His hair and beard were already white, but he appeared lively and had a cheerful demeanor. Hello, I'm a breeder currently traveling and learning. I apologize for the sudden disturbance. Oh, at such a young age, you're a breeder? It's quite rare. No worries, I am usually quite free here. If you don't mind, you can come in and take a look. The old man said. Thank you so much. Terence said. Cerulean Town's daycare wasn't small in scale. During Terence's tour, he found many young Mariup, Stantler, and Combi. Combi and Vespican are Pokémon we raise ourselves. The honey gathered by Combi is quite delicious. How about it, would you like to try some? Combi's honey. Terence had tried it once in Hearthome City, but it was used in cooking. If it was pure honey, he hadn't yet tasted it. This delicious and highly nutritious honey was a precious ingredient used in various Pokémon foods. May I trouble you for some? Terence asked. It's no problem at all. If it's just a bit of honey, we can definitely afford it, the old man said with a cheerful smile. Monk. Just as the old man was showing Terence around, a deep blue Pokémon ran over and clung to the old man's leg, calling incessantly. Munchlax, Terence exclaimed in surprise. It looks like it's hungry. Seems like that's the case, the old man said with a helpless expression. Munchlax eats an amount of food equivalent to its own weight in one day. It's truly a big eater Pokémon, and trainers who have such Pokémon often find it quite a headache. Such a glutton, the old man sighed. It's easy to imagine that preparing food for Munchlax every day would require a lot of time. You woke up early today, Munchlax. But the food isn't ready yet, so you'll have to wait, the old man said to Munchlax. Munch, munch, Munchlax wore a resigned expression. If you don't mind, let me help. I've gained some insights into Pokémon food recently, Terence said. That would be a big help, the old man said. During the conversation with the old man, Terence learned that Munchlax was a child of a nearby ranch owner who had been left in the care of the daycare while the owner traveled as a trainer. Due to Munchlax's unique eating habits, it was inconvenient to take care of him at home, so they had entrusted him to the daycare. Tang growth, hey! Terence exclaimed. It seemed the old man had some breeding experience as well, perhaps even being a veteran breeder, living out his retirement in Cerulean Town. When it comes to what's most suitable to feed Pokémon like Snorlax, you'd definitely think of thorny plants and vines. Not only are they abundant, they also match Snorlax's taste perfectly, making them the top choice for making food. As for Pokémon like Tangrowth, even if its arms were eaten, it wouldn't mind. Thanks to its strong regenerative abilities, its vines can quickly grow back in the blink of an eye as long as there's enough nourishment. Once again, I'm relying on you, Tangrowth, the old man said. Tangrowth was actually quite unwilling. However, upon seeing the hopeful, tearful eyes of Munchlax, Tangrowth gave in. It rapidly grew a large amount of vines. Seeing the vines, Munchlax immediately wanted to start eating, but the old man stopped it. If you eat these, your nutrition won't keep up with your growth. Terence smiled. When it came to the vines, he thought of a good recipe. Next, it was time to prepare the meal. Inspired by the Pokémon cooking house, Terence also wanted to collaborate with Pokémon to create an exquisite dish. Thus, Beautifully became his helper. After a while, with the efforts of Terence and Beautifully, a large pot of food named Thundervine was successfully made by them. Chapter 72, Mariep's Going Crazy. Ingredients for Thundervine include vines, spicy berry seeds, coriander, and dried leppa berries. Vines come from Tangrowth, spicy berry seeds have the effect of whetting the appetite, coriander promotes energy circulation and has the effect of clearing toxins from the body. As for the dried leppa berries, they effectively replenish wasted stamina and energy. For the Munchlax that was eager to feast right away, this would be a delightful meal. The other seasoning for Thundervine is Beautifly's stun spore, adding a numbing flavor to the dish. Terence wasn't worried that Munchlax won't be able to digest it, their stomachs are incredibly powerful. Even after evolving, Mook's poison is nothing but seasoning for Snorlax's tongue. So, stun spore can enhance the taste of the dish, and combined with the spicy berry seeds, it gives the ingredients a spicy and tingling flavor. Munch, munch. As Munchlax took the first bite, its eyes widened, the spicy and tingling sensation spread in its mouth, stimulating its appetite. Terence only heard the sound of gulping as Munchlax crazily devoured the rest of the Thundervine. Munchlax really loves the food you made, the old man exclaimed. Although it always wolfs down its food, it's never been this enthusiastic. Yet, Terence was also delighted. Using the seasonings available at the daycare and Beautifully, he finally cooked the ingredients using electric currents, encasing all the ingredients within a large electrode, enhancing the flavors of the ingredients even further. That's a great idea, the old man had a sudden realization upon seeing the ingredients of the dish. No wonder Munchlax likes it so much, the food is well thought out in terms of pairing. You can definitely become an outstanding breeder, the old man praised. Hearing this, Terence grinned. At the daycare, Terence saw many Pokémon he had only read about in books, and encountering unknown Pokémon for the first time allowed him to observe them up close. Especially when the daycare's owner introduced them to him, Terence can be said to have gained a lot. The old man had been taking care of Pokémon for many years, and he possessed some breeding experience that Terence lacked. Therefore, Terence paid close attention to the old man's words. Mr. Kamigata. Mr. Kamigata. Something's wrong, our Mariep at the ranch are suddenly discharging electricity for no reason. Please, come and take a look. Inside the daycare, Mr. Kamigata and Terence were deep in conversation when an urgent cry from outside reached them, making both of them stand up quickly. What happened? Mr. Kamigata wondered, recognizing the rancher, who often entrusted him with some Pokémon to take care of. That Munchlax belonged to the rancher's daughter. I don't know, but the Mariep have suddenly started running around and discharging electricity everywhere. I can't control them, they're usually very well behaved. Is it serious? Lead us there quickly. Terence stood by, watching the rancher breathe heavily. He wanted to ask the man to take a rest, but it seemed like a pressing matter. Mr. Kamigata, could you, please come with me? The rancher stuttered. I understand, Mr. Kamigata replied. The daycare was quite a distance from the rancher's farm, and the rancher's hurried arrival while out of breath, was understandable. Mr. Kamigata couldn't keep up with the physical exertion, so he told the two of them to go ahead to the ranch. The distance was manageable for Terence, who jogged alongside the rancher. They reached a grassy field enclosed by iron fences, where a group of Mariep were colliding with each other and sporadically using thunder shock. It's dangerous, the rancher stopped Terence, concerned about the risk of thunder shock harming the child. In this situation, we should try to get them to stop. Are there any other Pokémon in the ranch? We have Miltank, but they are on the other side of town, and my wife is taking care of it. It's quite far, the rancher said helplessly. Then let me handle this for now, Terence said. Is that okay? The rancher asked. I'll give it a try. Swablu, you sing. Swablu had been feeling frustrated during this period, especially since the Pokémon contest had become Beautifly's stage to perform. This made Swablu quite envious for a while. Now, finally, it has a chance to shine. After emerging from the luxury ball, Swablu flapped its cotton-like wings and began to dance in the air. Simultaneously, a melodious voice began to fill the air, captivating anyone who heard it. Cover your ears, Terence quickly advised. The rancher was startled but immediately followed Terence's instruction. Even with the secret technique plan getting destroyed, the one thing Swablu didn't neglect was its singing voice. During their time at the Crown Academy, Terence would feed Swablu daily with food made from snowpear berries, kumquat berries, and nomel berries. Even during high-intensity training, Swablu's throat remained undamaged due to its balanced diet. Born only a few months ago, if Swablu had one organ that had developed perfectly, Terence would say it was its throat. A melodious, high-pitched, tranquil, and peaceful song filled the air. Even though Swablu hadn't evolved into Altaria yet, it displayed a certain elegance. Its voice was enchanting, and due to this rhythmic, hypnotic voice, the agitated Mariup gradually stopped, and slowly lay down to sleep. They're asleep, the rancher's surprise turned to joy as he looked gratefully at Terence. I used to have a Delcatty at home that could sing as well, but my daughter took it away. This time, I really owe it to you, young man. It's no problem, Terence replied. The Mariup seemed to have entered a state similar to confusion. If the ranch's Miltank can use Heal Bell, it should also help resolve the situation. Really? Thank you so much, the rancher said. Terence just mentioned it casually to the rancher. Typically, Miltank bred specifically for milk production rarely knows high-level moves. Not long after the Mariup fell asleep, the old man Kamigata arrived. Seeing the Mariup in the ranch asleep, he was momentarily confused but quickly understood. Thank you, the old man Kamigata said. This young and promising breeder's future looks bright. Mr. Kamigata, these are all minor matters. The crucial question is why the Mariup suddenly acted this way, Terence said, furrowing his brow. The Mariup raised on the ranch should have lost their wild nature long ago, and Mariup itself was a mild-mannered Pokémon. There was no reason for them to become so aggressive. Could there be external factors, the rancher pondered. But I only raise Mariup in this field. Different Pokémon are kept in different places. They might have been influenced by other Pokémon, the old man Kamigata said as he crossed the fence and approached one of the sleeping Mariup. Their fur is all puffed up. This situation, the old man Kamigata said, if it's not because the weather has suddenly turned colder. I remember now, when Mariup are frightened by external factors, the static electricity they store in their bodies can transfer to their fur. Terence suddenly recalled Mariup's characteristics and exclaimed with sudden realization. Chapter 73, From the Lost Tower. Frightened? How could the Mariup have been frightened? The rancher was dumbfounded. Are there any wild Pokémon colonies near Cerulean Town? Terence asked. I don't know. There probably shouldn't be any. Cerulean Town has been covered by vast ranches, and wild Pokémon rarely come here, the rancher said. Hehe, it's also possible that it's a ghost. The old man Kamigata suddenly turned around, lowered his voice and spoke with an eerie tone. The rancher. Terence. Hehe, Terence laughed dryly. Are you saying it might be a ghost-type Pokémon? The old man Kamigata nodded. Exactly. There's a lost tower near Cerulean Town, and people often bury deceased Pokémon there. In that environment, many ghost-type Pokémon are bound to appear. That place, the rancher was shocked. Isn't it said that there's a spell tag at the top of the tower to attract ghosts? And there are cleanse tags placed outside by experts, ghosts shouldn't be able to easily leave. Pokémon, these magical creatures, always have exceptions, Terence said. You can't always analyze them with conventional wisdom. If it really is a ghost from the Lost Tower, then it's understandable why the Mariup were suddenly frightened. If there's one type of Pokémon that's challenging to deal with among the Pokémons, besides Psychic, it's the ghost type. They're difficult for trainers to fathom. Silently toying around with this group of Mariup seemed like no trouble at all for a ghost-type Pokémon. Could it be Ghastly? Or perhaps Duskull or Misdreavus? These ghost-type Pokémon, whether it's Ghastly, Duskull, or Misdreavus, all enjoy playing tricks on people and pranking them. Ghastly loves to scare humans and Pokémon just for fun. Duskull also finds pleasure in making kids cry. As for Misdreavus, they are even worse. Not only does it enjoy playing tricks on others, but it also often takes pleasure in scaring passersby and Pokémon. Even Misdreavus with owners will frequently play pranks on their owners. Compared to the other two Pokémon, Misdreavus exhibits a stronger sense of motivation. If I recall correctly, Misdreavus uses the fear in the hearts of humans and other Pokémon as its source of energy. The bead around its neck can also absorb the fear of the frightened individuals, Terence pondered and said. Yes, Duskull isn't keen on pranking other Pokémon. Ghastly and Misdreavus are the prime suspects, the old man Kamigata said. If it's Ghastly, it's manageable, but if it's Misdreavus, it'll surely show up again, Terence speculated. Misdreavus takes pleasure in scaring others, and uses the red bead around its neck to absorb the fear of its victims and nourish itself. If the Pokémon from the Lost Tower is Misdreavus, there's a good chance it'll return for another meal. However, even with these speculations, the three of them had no real solution. Ghost-type Pokémon could appear and disappear without a trace. With the Pokémon Terence had on hand and those at the ranch, they had no effective way to deal with Ghost-type Pokémon unless one happened to reappear before them. Misdreavus might be hiding, waiting for its next meal, or it might have left this place to seek out its next feeding ground, Terence said. Tonight, I'll stay here. If Misdreavus shows up, I'll try to see if I can drive it away. Really, young man? Thank you so much. Why don't you stay at my house tonight? You've already helped us a lot with the Mariup situation, the rancher kindly offered. That works for me. I remember your name is Terence, right? You can stay here for the night. I need to return to the daycare, Kamigata sighed. If I had known from the beginning that it was a ghost-type Pokémon causing trouble, I would have brought the Girafarig from the daycare here. Is there a Girafarig at the daycare? Terence was pleasantly surprised. Dealing with ghost-type Pokémon would be much easier with Girafarig. Yes, that's right. I'll head back for now, and you can wait here. Thank you so much, Mr. Kamigata. By the way, our Miltank has produced a lot of fresh milk again. Tomorrow, I'll bring you some, the rancher said with a smile. And of course, young man, you're welcome to have some. Our family's milk tastes fantastic. Late into the night, the nearby ranch was calm and quiet. The rancher invited Terence to his home and offered him some top-quality cow milk as a treat, and Terence was quite satisfied with the taste of the milk. Miltank's milk was rich in nutrients and considered the best drink for the elderly and the sick. Children also loved it, and for those who couldn't handle drinking it, it could be turned into yogurt. After drinking a big can of the milk, you can grow up tall and strong. You should drink more, and then you'll grow into a healthy adult, the rancher chattered on. Terence. Uncle, hasn't anyone told you that Miltank's milk, although nutritious, is also high in calories? If you drink too much, you might end up with a physique like a Miltank. Glancing at Rancher's physique, fortunately, although somewhat overweight, he still looked fine. But who knew, just as Terence's words fell, the Rancher's eyes widened, looking incredulous. Rancher froze. He gave Terence a quick glance and stammered, Is this true? It should be correct. Terence replied, also having read it in a book. Boo-hoo, I'm done for. If my daughter finds out about this, she'll hate me forever. Wah! You don't think my daughter would know, right? She decided to go on this journey to lose weight because she's too fat. If she finds out the reason she's overweight is because I gave her too much milk when she was a child, she'll hate me forever. Wah! Terence was at a loss for words. Girls, he figured, would probably care a lot about their weight. Uncle, cheer up. Your daughter will surely forgive you. After all, you did it for her well-being, probably, Terence consoled him. Daughter, for some reason, Terence subconsciously pictured a girl with a Miltank-like physique, dressed in cowboy dress. It seems that Munchlax chose the right owner, Terence fell silent. Met. In the silent night, when even Terence had fallen asleep, sudden distressed bleatings echoed from the ranch, waking everyone up. It's here. Terence's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, it has appeared again. Ghastly? Or Misdreavus? Simultaneously, different bleatings filled the air. Grrrr. Me. Huo. Among them was Girafarig's growl. The other one belonged to an unknown ghost-type Pokémon which had come from the Lost Tower. Chapter 74. What the hell? What's with this mysterious fog? Terence muttered as he walked out of the room with his mouth covered. Where are they? The rancher also emerged at that moment. As soon as he spoke, they heard a heart-rending and chilling cry resembling a person's wailing. Ah! Rancher exclaimed in shock. Uncle, calm down. I know which Pokémon it is. Terence was mentally prepared for this, though he too felt a sudden jolt. He recovered quickly. Nonsense. Am I someone who'd be scared by a cry? There's something grabbing my hair from behind. And it's still pulling. Uncle couldn't hide his distress. I can't touch anything. The uncle was on the verge of tears. Girafarig, where's Girafarig? Terence's vision was completely obscured by the fog, and he couldn't see anything clearly. Growling. Stop shouting. I can't find you either. Quickly, find a solution and catch Misdreavus. Terence shouted. Beautifully, Swablu, come out and help. Uncle, Misdreavus might be right behind you, don't worry, it's just one of its mischievous tricks. Hurry up, Rancher urged. Growling. Next, a long-necked, deer-like Pokémon ran over. From the dim light of the room, Terence could faintly recognize the Pokémon. It was indeed Girafarig. Don't point your tail at me, Terence sighed. Quickly use Odor Sleuth to find Misdreavus. Odor Sleuth was Girafarig's specialty move, capable of pinpointing the location of ghost-type Pokémon that were hiding. The thing that will use the Odor Sleuth move would be the grinning black head on Girafarig's tail. When approached, it will immediately react to the scent and instinctively attempt to bite it. Receiving Terence's command, Girafarig immediately ran toward the rancher and sniffed his backside. Growling. Found it. Rancher breathed a sigh of relief. After Girafarig approached, it kicked out with its hind legs, and the sensation of his hair being tugged disappeared instantly. Where's the Misdreavus? Terence reacted. It seemed Girafarig had done quite well. Not only had they successfully found the Misdreavus, but Girafarig had also used its move to drive it away. There it is, the rancher exclaimed, pointing. On the eaves of the house, a dark green Pokémon with a string of conspicuous red bead around its neck was looking at them in panic. Swablu, use Astonish. Terence quickly commanded. Using Astonish to deal with Misdreavus, known for frightening people, was a clever move on Terence's part. Astonish was also a ghost-type move, and it might take Misdreavus by surprise. And the result, a piercing scream erupted out from Swablu's beak, causing Misdreavus to immediately turn and flee into the distance. It ran away, the rancher was dumbfounded. If it ran away, it probably won't come back. You can relax now, Uncle, Terence said. That Misdreavus earlier didn't seem to be scared at all. Perhaps Swablu's Astonish doesn't have much intimidation power. The fog is dispersing. I need to check on Mariep's. I thought I heard their cry earlier. Click. They hurried over, opened the fence, and rancher and Terence didn't even get a chance to examine the Mariep closely before the scene in front of them left them stunned. Whoosh! Countless flashes of white light enveloped them. This light is... Terence looked at the scene before him with an incredulous expression. It was no different from what they had seen before. Marieps were still running around in a frenzy, continuously ramming into things, and occasionally releasing random thunder shocks. However, when Terence and the others arrived, one of the Mariep began to emit a bright white light from its entire body. Next, 2, 3, 5, until all of them were shining. All the Mariep were emitting a white light. This light, Terence recognized very well. It was the glow that Pokémon emitted when they evolved. Why are they all evolving into Fluffy? Rancher exclaimed, his mouth wide open in astonishment. But, that's great. Fluffy's fur is even rarer than Mariep. It seems like Misdreavus did something good. He continued, his surprise turning into delight. However, before his joyful mood could last more than a few seconds, his mouth opened wide once again. All the Fluffy once again emitted white light, evolving in unison into Bear Ampharos. Gaia, Rancher was left speechless. Even Terence, while wearing a frown, couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Ampharos! Ampharos! Ampharos, the light Pokémon, with its tail light that could shine far and wide, had made significant contributions in the field of railways, earning the affection of many. But when their tails were charging with fierce lightning, ready to unleash a thunderbolt. Rancher and Terence found it hard to appreciate their tales. It seems like they're looking at us angrily, Rancher said, and they're adopting an attack stance. As they looked at dozens of Ampharos gathering lightning, glaring fiercely at them, Rancher shivered all over. Uncle! Hey! Didn't you find anything strange from the beginning? Terence asked. My beautifully and Swablos seemed a bit sluggish. Really? And I remember Mr. Kamigata staying here too. We were so focused on Miss Drevis that we didn't notice. But it's been quite a while, and there was Swablo's loud scream. Why haven't Mr. Kamigata appeared yet? Upon hearing Terence's words, Rancher's expression also froze. It seemed to be really the case. Mr. Kamigata lives the furthest inside. Even if Mariep's commotion didn't wake him up, Swablo's scream was certainly loud enough. It was impossible that he was still sleeping. Moreover, all the Mariep evolving into Ampharos together simply didn't make sense. It's an illusion. Terence said decisively. It's an illusion created by Miss Drevis. We've been in an illusion from the very beginning. Miss Drevis never actually ran away. An illusion. Once they calmed down and thought about it, the inconsistencies and irrationalities all pointed to them not being in the real world right now. We've been completely fooled, Terence said, looking at the incoming thunderbolts without batting an eye. Since they knew it was an illusion, they knew what to do. To break the illusion, all they needed was strong enough willpower. Uncle, keep repeating in your mind, these are all illusions, and you will snap out of it, Terence shouted. Dizziness, heaviness, darkness. Terence's hand touched the cold ground and he quickly got up and realized that he was still lying outside the room. It was indeed an illusion. This Miss Drevis is quite interesting, Terence muttered, patting the pokeball that hadn't been used at all, piquing his interest. At this moment, the uncle also groggily woke up. He was still in a shutdown mode. Given his knowledge of ghost-type Pokémon, these experiences would be enough to digest for a while. Chapter 75, Coercing Miss Drevis. Girafarig. Miss Drevis. Eerie growls echoed out, and barely visible in the dim light, Terence watched the two confronting Pokémon. Girafarig and Miss Drevis. The head on Girafarig's tail was too small to possess thinking capability, but because it didn't need to sleep, it could monitor the surroundings 24 hours a day. The appearance of Miss Drevis should have surely been noticed by Girafarig, who was constantly watching for any movements. But even in this situation, Miss Drevis could still hypnotize Terence and Rancher into a dream world, which was quite impressive. No wonder it was able to escape from the Lost Tower even under the double protection of Cleanse Tag and Spell Tag. Most Pokémon that could induce humans into illusions were of the ghost and psychic types, but not every Pokémon possessed this talent. The illusion created by this Miss Drevis was not yet perfect, at least, it still couldn't control the five senses of the one being ensnared. Under Terence's subconscious emphasis, the thunderbolts from Ampharos struck him, and he didn't feel any pain. The colors of its beads are quite faint. Terence noticed that, apart from the largest red bead on Miss Drevis' neck, the other red beads had a very faint hue. The formation couldn't have been more than 3 years ago, with a deviation of no more than a year. This was Terence's assessment. Ghost-type Pokémon generally have long lifespans. Without deliberate training, their mastery of their abilities only increases with age. This Miss Drevis is definitely not old, but it's precisely because of this that its ability to hypnotize Terence and the others under Girafarig's pressure is so remarkable. If it is allowed to roam about for a few more years, its abilities will grow to a point where hardly any trainer can detect it. If, by that time, this Miss Drevis had matured a bit, it would be fine. But if it continued to indulge in mischief and even create nightmares, it would be a big problem for traveling trainers. To be honest, Terence was tempted. This Miss Drevis was clearly a Pokémon with extraordinary potential. With just a little guidance from a trainer, it wouldn't take long to develop its strength. Most importantly, Miss Drevis uses the fear of humans and other Pokémon as its energy source. The reason why wild Miss Drevis often play pranks or scare passers-by in Pokémon is in order to absorb their fear through their beads. Emotions were Miss Drevis' food, and this intangible energy source was something Terence could easily acquire without any cost. Reality and illusion were different. Girafarig's brief clash with Miss Drevis immediately woke up the old man Kamigata. Girafarig possessed the ability Odor Sleuth and had its own psychic-type moves, so dealing with Miss Drevis shouldn't be a problem. Given the current situation, it is likely that Girafarig was the first one to break free from Miss Drevis's illusion, or it might not have been affected by the illusion at all. beautifully. Swablu. Terence once again summoned the two Pokémon and felt the difference between reality and illusion. Pay attention and don't get caught in the illusion. Swablu, go help Girafarig defeat Misdreavus. I plan to capture it. Capture Rancher and Old Man Kamigata, still in a daze, arrived by his side. Yes, I quite like this Misdreavus, and since it enjoys scaring people, I happen to know a good place for it. Where it can feast to its heart's content. The more fear it collected, the stronger Misdreavus would become. Terence really liked that aspect. Then, young man, go ahead and capture it, it's a menace to the entire Salation town. Haha. Capturing it, hey? I almost forgot you're a traveling breeder. This Misdreavus is quite something, isn't it? I can feel it, the old man Kamigata chuckled. If I weren't getting old and had fewer ambitions, I'd also compete with you for it, he mumbled. In that case, thank you, Terence replied with a smile. The battle between Misdreavus and Girafarig wasn't one-sided. Girafarig, originally considered a ghost killer when dealing with ghost-type Pokémon, found Misdreavus exceptionally hard to deal with. Confuse Ray. Under the light released by Misdreavus, its movements became incredibly elusive, even causing Girafarig, who knew Misdreavus's location, to repeatedly miss its attacks. Girafarig is being restrained by Misdreavus. Its actions are all within Misdreavus's expectations. Swablu was similar in size to Misdreavus. If Misdreavus was eerie like a nightmare, then Swablu exudes elegance from all over its body. Its petite azure body had fluffy and immaculately clean wings that resembled cotton, looking graceful. Misdreavus, who was playing around with Girafarig, locked eyes with Swablu, and immediately the atmosphere between the two little creatures turned solemn. Facing Swablu's gaze, Misdreavus's crimson pupils showed a hint of mockery. With a loud cry, Misdreavus, in full view of everyone, transformed into a ferocious Pokémon several times the size of Swablu Honchkrow. Honchkrow not only looked menacing but also had distinct red patterns on its wings and tail, creating a sharp contrast with Swablu's elegance. Interesting, did you think this would scare Swablu? Terence chuckled. Pokémon's personalities have inherent traits, but the environment they grow up in is equally important. Since birth, Swablu had been with Terence, and they had overcome numerous difficulties. Swablu wasn't the kind of rookie Pokémon that got scared at the sight of fierce or large Pokémon. Misdreavus! Misdreavus! With provocative cries, Honchkrow spread its wings and once again used Confuse Ray. Safeguard, Terence ordered. Safeguard was a move that Swablu's race could naturally comprehend as they grew. Under this protective state, for a certain period, Swablu wouldn't fall into status condition or confusion state. Misdreavus had miscalculated by trying to disrupt Swablu with Confuse Ray. Seeing that Swablu was unaffected, Misdreavus immediately changed its battle strategy and released a purple beam. You don't need to intervene for now, Terence turned to the recovering Girafarig and said, leave it to Swablu, we'll make Misdreavus acknowledge defeat. As long as it stayed focused, Misdreavus's current level of illusions couldn't affect Swablu. In midair, the purple Psywave swept past, and Swablu entered agility state, easily dodging it. After enduring the onslaught of 12 steel balls, Swablu began to grasp the basics of agility, allowing it to move as it normally would for a short time. Facing Swablu, Misdreavus began to find it exceptionally challenging to deal with an opponent for the first time. Its once prideful illusions had been exposed by the opponent, making it impossible for it to launch a sudden sneak attack. Confuse Ray was ineffective, and the opponent proved too agile to be hit by Psywave. If Swablu wasn't constantly suppressing it, preventing it from escaping, Misdreavus would have already left this place by now. Hey, Misdreavus, how about that? Swablu is pretty amazing, isn't it? Terence called out to the floating Misdreavus. Misdreavus! Misdreavus! Misdreavus stared at Terence in anger. Don't get angry just yet. Causing trouble in the ranch is your fault to begin with. If you keep this up, sooner or later, other trainers will punish you, or even capture you. After being captured, you won't be able to enjoy your favorite food anymore. Trainers won't let you go around scaring people. Hearing that it will not be able to absorb fear anymore, Misdreavus's eyes showed a hint of panic. So, to prevent that day from coming, how about you come with me? Become my partner. I promise you'll get enough energy to feast on.